We're at Nova Lab here in downtown LA. I'm with Teresa here. Teresa, thanks for coming out. I appreciate it.
Of course. Thanks for having me today.
Of course, I know we've been planning this for a little bit of time now. We had some stuff come up in the area that caused
How dare the pandemic happen,
the pandemic, and then there was the protest that became looting and all that. So now everything's situated. We've made it.
Knock on wood.
Yeah. So you're the first official in-person guest for Mine podcast. So I'm very happy
It
to have
seems like
you be the
there's
first.
6 feet between us. So
I think
we'll
we're
be
good
okay.
too. There's a barrier.
Absolutely.
We're safe, and we have the mics in
I
front
feel
too, just in
safe. Do you
case.
feel safe?
I feel safe.
Okay,
I'm
very
good.
good.
Worst case, we have masks as backup
Very
if
good.
need be. So go ahead, kind of give me a rundown of your background.
Of course.
Right now you're at Coldwell as
Banker,
a
absolutely.
realtor. So how did you get there? You can go as far back as you'd like.
Absolutely. So, first of all, my journey is kind of all over the place because I never thought I would end up as a realtor. Some people say, "Did you always want to be a realtor because you're so good at it?" But I think my journey kind of took me here. I started as a teller at Wells Fargo. Well, before that retail experience, I don't want to go back that far, but as a teller at Wells Fargo from the age of 18, worked my way up the corporate ladder, became a banker, became an assistant manager, a manager at a very young age, and then I managed high-level stores up until I was 26 years old. And then I felt like, oh my God, like I've reached the cap, where do you go from here? And there was so much seniority ahead of me to be a district manager, and I didn't want to sit and wait for my turn. So I decided to completely change that and decided to become a manager at Apple, which is so far off from that corporate world, because with Apple, it's all about creative thinking outside of the box and being different, and we're all one. There's a reason why everyone wears the same color shirts, because we are really all one. Versus at Wells Fargo, like there's always this hierarchy and you have boss after boss after boss that you report to, and you didn't feel that at Apple. So became a manager at Apple for 3 years. And during that time, I was going through, my personal life was happening at the same time. And I was in the process of selling my home and purchasing another. And in that process, I met different realtors. I interviewed some, and I realized how difficult it was to really find a good realtor. Because I always say this, buying and selling, it's such a sensitive time in someone's life. So it's very crucial to be that person that they can count on and they can trust, someone that has their best interest in mind, someone that's not after the paycheck, but more, how's your experience and how can I benefit you? So in that process, I said, oh my God, like I can do this. I can be the person people look for at such a difficult time in their life. Because when someone's buying or selling a home, there's life-changing events happening in this person's life. It could be having a baby, so you're getting a bigger house. It could be marriage, you're growing your family. It could be divorce. It could be death in the family. You can't afford it anymore. So all of these are life-changing events. So for you to be there in their life, it's almost as if you become that most crucial person because you're helping them transition from one stage to the other. So it's all about how that experience goes. And I decided to become a part-time realtor while I was a full-time manager at Apple. And, at first, I didn't tell any of my customers that I was a manager at Apple. I wanted them to feel that they have 100% of me. I didn't want them to think that this was a joke or I wasn't taking it seriously. And I got away with it for quite some time. So I think about a year and a half into the business, I decided where I could no longer take any more phone calls and commit 40 hours of me to Apple. I decided to follow my passion, and my passion was real estate. And I said, okay, goodbye, Apple, as much as I love you and so much I've learned from it. And I became a full-time realtor. And now I'm growing my team. I have 5 other realtors that work kind of on my team. I mentor them. I guide them through their transactions. And constantly growing. So
yeah, that's a pretty unique path. When you were doing that in the part-time while you were at Apple, did they know that you were doing that as part-time as well at Apple?
No. So at Apple, they had to know, because
Right.
if you saw what my lunch breaks and 15-minute breaks look like, oh my goodness. They would make fun of it. They would say, oh, but where is Teresa's office for the day? Clear up this table. Teresa's about to take over. And I would have like documents, escrow documents, my laptop, my phone, and it was nonstop. And what was crazy is there was no break. Like it was hustle mode nonstop. So I would finish with a client who just yelled at me at the Apple store, and then I would go to the back to be yelled at by another client. It was crazy times, but I think it helped me prepare for what's to come.
Mm.
Like the amount of escrows that I'm in right now, and the amount of listings I have, and the level of transactions that I handle at the moment. If I didn't go through that, I don't think I would be able to survive this, So I don't think anything in my life came to me easy. I think I just put in a lot of hours into it, a lot of effort, a lot of hard work. And when you do that, it's impossible for the results not to follow. Impossible.
Yeah, of course. So where did that drive come from? Did you, growing up, was it like seeing your parents work a certain way? Did you know someone growing up, a friend,
I
whatever?
I think always there's a connection between the family and the way you're raised and the way you turn out. But then there's also two siblings that are complete opposites from the same family. So how do you explain that? But I do think that my work ethic is, it's instilled in me by my parents. But I also think I was the way that I am. I've been a straight A student my whole life, teacher's pet, the one kid everybody hated in class right here. Because I would remind the teachers, I'm like, you were supposed to collect our homework today. And everyone's like, Teresa, really? And, so that was just me growing up. I was a perfectionist at school and I had to make sure that, so I think I just took that same mentality to my work environment. I'm a perfectionist at work. I'm a people pleaser. Like my goal is at the end of the day, did I do my best to take care of everyone? I don't even know how to say no to people. My family gets mad at me sometimes. They're like, how much more can you take on? I just don't know how to say no to people. They come to me for help. I'm like, absolutely, I will take care of you. It's always yes. It's always yes. So I do think that a lot of it is just the way I am and the way I was raised. But the work ethic, you have to have it in you. You can't just learn it. It's not a skill. You have to love working. You have to have a passion for it, but you also have to love what you do. So I think if I didn't enjoy real estate and people as much as I do, there's no way that I would have gotten to this level. So that word love I use very often, but it's very genuine and I mean it in everything I do. I do it with love.
I'm curious because obviously, if, as a realtor, you have to be able to have a personal connection. Like
Absolutely.
if you're a realtor that's just very dry, like if I was a realtor, I'd suck at it. So
Good to know. I don't have
yeah,
competition here.
yeah, definitely not,
Definitely no
definitely not.
competition.
No, I'd be the one like knocking on your team door, be like, please take me in and figure out how to
Fix me.
fix it. Yeah. So I'm curious because I also my first actual job, I'll call it, was at a bank too. I was a
Uh-huh.
teller at Citibank. And when I got it, I was like, "Oh, sweet!" Because I was working at the movie theater prior to that. I was getting like
It's a
$8 an hour,
huge
yeah.
upgrade.
And then I had just turned 18. I'm like, perfect. Because I was getting like, I think it was like $14 or something. Like I just went from 8 to 14. I'm 18. All I have for cost is one car, nothing.
So,
I'm like, I'm on top of the world. But then I was like, well, hold on. I don't know how to talk to people
uh-huh.
because I was like, I'm gonna be helping people. I have to count money. I have to do these
Uh-huh.
transactions, and I have to maintain a conversation. So I was like, that's what was most terrifying for me. So when you started, like, because you said you did teller, right? When you started that, were you already someone that had that in terms of a conversationalist? You can keep up, can talk to people about anything and keep them comfortable, or was that something for you too that you were like, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do that part.
I absolutely think my life experiences, my education, the way I was raised, it helped me, molded me into the person that I am today. Not that I was perfect from day one. No, it takes time, it
Mm.
takes practice, persistency, consistency. At banking, we learned scripting, how to script with people, and I had to find a way to be genuine while scripting because I hate sounding like a robot. Like there's scripts for cold calling, and when my team members use it, I'm like, no, 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 put that away. There is no way people can tell. People can tell if there is that human touch or if it's
Mhm.
missing. But I got here. I wasn't like that from the beginning. So I think it was a lot of trial and error,
Mm.
practice and see what works and what doesn't. I remember at the banking world, we had surveys, right? Top box or
Mhm.
non
Mhm.
top box. So top box means you got all fives all across, which means you please them in every area of the business. And God forbid if I ever got a non top box, like 1 4 in one category, I would take it so hard and I would be like, okay, how do I perfect this area? What could I have done differently? And I wasn't upset at the client. I think I took it more as criticism and good feedback that I can take on and say, it did ruin my mood. I'll be honest. Like I was down the whole day, but I would learn from it. I would constantly work on perfecting myself. How do I make myself better? So when you talk about connecting with people, there's different types of realtors out there. I've seen and I've worked with the dry ones. Some realtors that I work with, I could go on forever with the list of bad
Mhm.
realtors that
Mhm.
I see on a regular basis. And I hate using that word, but it's true because if I go through that experience, I sometimes feel bad for their clients because I don't think they know who's truly representing them, because we're the ones that get to interact with them and see them during that escrow period. And I think if clients really saw their true colors, I don't know if they would want that realtor. But yes, we work with all kinds of people, and not being able to maintain that personal connection, I can't imagine you succeeding or going far. There's only so much you can do with your book of business, sphere of influence. Eventually, your true colors will show, and
Exactly.
eventually there will be an end to it. So when COVID happened, a lot of people's businesses slowed down, stopped completely. I know some realtors that are on unemployment. It's just different people reacted differently to what was happening. It was something new and unknown to all of us. And although in the beginning it was tough to adjust to what the hell is happening to the market, what's happening to the world, we've got a pandemic going on, but my business is booming. I mean, I'm in multiple escrows, multiple listings. I don't want to say numbers. I don't want to make it
Mhm.
seem like I'm bragging, but tons of business. And that's because I never lost the personal connection. I never lost the personal touch with my people. It was always about them. And when it's about them versus about the money, you will see your business grow. Was I able to?
Yeah,
Okay,
definitely.
good.
Uh, well, yeah, since you brought up COVID, that's something that I was mentioning I wanted to ask, and you sort of addressed it already in that, but because when that happened, um, I have a family member that's also a realtor. So when maybe like a couple weeks, about a month ish had already gone by, I asked him like, "How's it going?" He's like, surprisingly well. Like we're
Uh
we're
huh.
doing we're doing well. We're doing well, all things considered. We didn't know how it was gonna be. So you mentioned why you feel part of it is you've been able to maintain what you've been doing during COVID. But as soon as it happened, was there any level of fear or doubt there? Like, well, how will this impact? Or did you already know, given what you shared already, where you're like, well, no, given how I handle things, how I deal with people, we'll be fine.
I think in anything in life, difficult things may happen, challenges may happen, pandemics may happen. It's all about how you react to it. That's going to be a difference maker. So, some realtors kind of had the I give up approach. Oh
Mm.
my God, the world is ending. I give up. I'm going to stay home. I'm going to be safe. I want people to be safe. Don't get me wrong. I kept my family safe. I was safe. Some realtors had that mentality. Others took on, oh my God, panic mode. What is going on? I quit. I need to find something
Mm.
else. So everyone's approach is different. It's how you react to it. I think one way that I handled it, and I don't know if this is the right way, but I tuned the noise out. I mean, there was no news on in my home. The only way I knew what was going on is through my family, because they would call me and be like, by the way, there is a curfew in LA. I need you to be home. I need you to stop working. So I
Mhm.
knew the curfew from the family. I knew that, the certain stores are closed from the family. So I tuned the noise out because there was just so much negativity. Not that I didn't care. Don't get me wrong. In the beginning, I was very curious. I was like, what is happening? But it was depressing,
Yeah.
and constantly replaying over and over. I knew that that's going to get me nowhere, so I tuned it out, I turned that off, and I said, okay, how do I focus on what I have on hand? I had current active escrows, I had current listings. I said, how do I change the marketing on this? I can't show it, I can't do open houses anymore. Well, guess what? I'm going to go and do a video tour with a big smile on my face, with music in the background, brighten up everyone's day, and I'm going to post that video instead. And I'm going to make them feel like they were there with me. So I'm going to turn the live experience into a virtual one, but I'm going to make the best of it.
Mm.
And I remember I would get a lot of feedback and comments during the COVID period specifically about how much positivity people would get from my page. And, how it was always a tone of, there was a smile on my face, there was music in the background, there was humor. And I focused on that. And I think that's what I got in return, lots of positivity in return. And of course, I got some criticism as well, like, what the hell are you doing out? Go home. You're not essential. And then I would stay up to date if I'm essential. The moment I was essential, I'm like, okay, I'm back to work.
Mm.
The moment they would say, okay, shut down real estate, we're not essential, I'm like, okay, Teresa, be quiet for a few days until this dies down. So that I would stay up to date with, California Association of Realtors rules and regulations, because I want to make sure I did my part.
Mhm.
But I tuned out the negative noise and I focused on bringing some light during that dark period.
Yeah, because you mentioned you don't know if that was the right way to approach it in terms of kind of going
Absolutely.
dark. I would think, obviously it's subjective, but I do think that's a pretty good way to approach it because, like you said, it allows you to really focus in on it. And it's like you were completely unaware because, like you said,
Sure, you
people
know
were
what's
still
going on.
letting you
Yes,
know.
of course.
So somewhere you would hear about
Yes.
it, but at least filtering a lot of it out, I think, is probably one of the main reasons, like you mentioned as well. You were able to kind of
Oh yeah, it gave
go.
me strength. There's, I'm an emotional human being, and seeing all of that negativity was just gonna make me like curl up in my bed and be like, I don't want to leave. People are dying. This is just so scary. So I think being as emotional as I am, I thought, okay, if I don't find the sun bright shining on me, then I'm gonna be even worse and do more damage to myself. Then I'm gonna get past this. I'm gonna look past this, and I'm gonna focus on what good things are happening around us. Look how much time it gave us to get to know the people around us.
Mhm.
Like, I made jokes. I said I got to know my daughter during quarantine, and
Mhm.
she needs some work. I thought she was fantastic. No, I love my daughter. She's still very fantastic. But I got to know her personality more because now I was homeschooling, and boy, was that a difficult task. So I think it was a pause that we needed, as sad as it is to say. It made us realize how little we need to be happy. Stores
Mm.
were closed, entertainment was closed, banquet halls closed. They took away dressing up was not an option. Putting on makeup made no sense. You had a face covering on. So I think when they took those things away, it kind of made you pause and realize that you don't need much to survive. You don't need much to be happy. You don't need much to enjoy the people around you. So I think it was a necessary pause in some way.
Yeah, I think for that reason, because obviously it's still an ongoing situation. So obviously there's a lot of it that is bad, but and I've seen like a lot of people saying, well, this just adds on to 2020 being so bad, this, that. And again, I understand where all of that comes from. But for me, I feel like if you indulge in that way of
Yes.
thinking, it will impact everything else.
And the
So
rest is just going to be bad and bad.
exactly.
And on top of it, bad. You're absolutely right.
Because now let's say you're someone that unfortunately, let's say you lost your job because of this. You can either use that as a reason to stay down and kind of be like, well, how could I have lost my job, this, that, or you can
Work on your
flip it.
passion.
Exactly that with any, because now you have so much more time.
Absolutely.
Obviously it's not the ideal way to have more time, but you have to make the best of what you have. So given
Absolutely.
that's what it is, what are you going to do with it? So anytime I see that like 2020 has been the worst, what a start to the decade, all these memes and stuff that I'll see about
Yes.
2020, I'm like, I get it. And sometimes like I'll kind of be like, wow, man, what else is going to happen? But at the same time, it's like, okay, well, you
Like, it
again,
can't get any worse from here.
yeah,
I
it's like,
think we've hit the
yeah,
bottom. Don't jinx it, Teresa.
yeah, well, but again, it's like you just have to. The more you go with it, you're gonna go deeper and deeper into the
Absolutely.
hole. So it's like just you can either stop digging and try and start climbing up, or you can just keep going with it and end up
Absolutely.
further down. Then it's gonna be even harder to come back out. So that's why I think that's an important thing you mentioned, where you try and kind of bring some positivity through your videos, because it is positive. Like
Hmm.
you're watching it, you're always smiling, you're always there's something good going on around you. So if someone stumbles upon it, hopefully that'll translate to them too. Like
Absolutely.
maybe they're having a whatever day or it's a tough day, whatever they see that, and maybe hopefully that cheers them up.
I'm a true believer, smile is contagious. Have you tried smiling at someone nonstop? They're bound to smile back at you,
Probably.
whether from discomfort, or they just want you to leave them alone. Please don't come closer.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, they're bound to smile back. A smile is contagious. So laughter, humor. I thought, here's one way to brighten up someone's day, and that's just the way I grew up. I grew up surrounded by a lot of laughter, love, music in my household. So that's all I know.
Yeah. The other thing I'm kind of curious. So that's how you handled the COVID situation. You decided, okay, I'm gonna try and make the best of this. So how was it for your team members initially? So obviously you're the mentor. You can
Sure.
at some point you can bring that energy and the mentality, all that line of thinking to them. But when they first approach you, what was their morale like? Were they like, "What are we gonna do?" Or just already being under you? Are they already like, "Okay, we got this. Don't worry about it."
To be honest with you, I think everyone with their own personality had a different approach to it in the beginning, especially being someone newer to the industry. When you think, like, I had a team member who quit her job to jump fully into real
Mm.
estate. And before she did, I said, "Are you sure you want to do this?" And we didn't know that COVID was about to happen. And this is just me knowing how unstable the real estate market is, and there's ups and downs. And I said, "Are you sure? Financially, is your family going to be okay?" And she said, "If I want to be good, if I want to be really good, I have to fully commit myself." I said, "Okay. You have my support. I'm going to do what I can." And then COVID happened. She can't do open houses. She shouldn't be doing door knocking. There isn't much time we can spend. The offices are closed. We can't even spend face to face time at the office. So she'd call me and, we'd kind of vibe off of each other. Like she'd say, "It's going to be fine, right?" I'm like, "Of course it's going to be fine. Like this is totally temporary. Don't worry. What you're seeing right now isn't the reality of real estate. Like we're going to get out of this phase. We're going to get out." So it was a constant reminder. But, I think because when you don't have a solid pipeline, when you don't have a solid book of business on hand just yet, it's easier to panic,
Mm.
because you don't know where to go. But I still believe we're very fortunate to be here because the amount of support that we were provided during COVID, whether it be unemployment or, small business loans or the PPP program, just so many resources available, putting your rent on hold, putting your mortgage on hold. These are just benefits that many other countries can't take
Mm.
advantage of. So for us to be able to take advantage of that, I think yet another tool to make us strong versus give up. "Oh my God, I'm panicking." So, I educated them on what resources are available. I educated them what can they do with this time. My goal, I think the key phrase I kept using, use this time for self-education. You need to be the smartest, you need to be the best in your area. Here's the time you're going to use. You seem like you're free, you shouldn't be free. These are books you're going to read. This is material I want you to go over. These are the rules I want you to know. This is the market I want you to study. One of them is focusing on the zip code. I said, "I want you to know about every single house in this zip code, the features, the good, the bad, the neighborhood, who was the last one that sold, how much did it sell for, and so on." So, I kept focusing on education, time to educate yourself, time to level up, time to make yourself better. So when you come out of quarantine and COVID-19, you are a better version of you versus I slacked off, everything was down, I stopped, I shut down my mind. So I think we really honed in on time to educate. All the things you didn't have time for
Mm.
before, now you do.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a good point. Something I'm curious to know. So again, you have all this positivity. So throughout what, not just in real estate, let's say from the bank to while you're Apple to here now, has there been a person or people that you've, as positive as you are, as much as you try and make things work, has there just been some people that you've just been like, I don't know how to work with these people. It's just not working. I've tried every avenue. I've tried to approach them in every way, and it's just not working. Or have you been able to make it work enough where like, okay, this will do.
You know what it is? Of course, being in the industries that I've been in and dealing with so many individuals, it's impossible to say we got along always. And I think it also comes with success. The more successful you are, the more there will be negative Nancy's, is what I
Mm.
like to call them, or bullies, or people that don't really support you, or people that try to start rumors, find ways to put you down. So that's bound to happen. It's normal. And in fact, it's sort of a compliment. That means the more people talk about you, they say it doesn't really matter if
Mm.
it's positive or negative. That's just them
Yeah.
talking about you. You're still relevant. So not that I enjoy the negativity, I don't for a bit, but it's inevitable. It comes with the territory. I think, my approach, I don't give up on people, but I learn how to tune out the unimportant stuff. And I have a good support system in place. Not that I'm like this all by myself. Like I've got my amazing family, my mom, my sister, my daughter, they're always by my side. They're like my rock. And when I have these people to lean on, like when I have a bad day and I call them and like I just vent, and having someone there to listen to you and kind of guide you and pause you before you do or say something wrong, it means a lot. So I think I'm very blessed and fortunate to have such a strong support system, and that being my family. Um, but at the same time, I think with experience, you learn how to focus on the good and kind of ignore the bad. Because I always say a bad apple is like cancer.
Mm.
I once had a bad team member at Wells Fargo, and he just would bring a lot of negativity to the store. And I'm like, "Oh my God, I need to get this bad apple out," because he's transferring it to everyone else. So I found out what he was passionate about. Turns out he doesn't want to be a banker, he wants to be a financial advisor. So I put all my energy into giving him the proper training and partnering him with the right people until he got his promotion. At the end of the day, he's now doing something something that he absolutely loves, and he's no longer a bad apple in my store. So it was a win-win for all of us. But I could have simply given up on him and, gone the HR route and write-ups. But I said, no, wait a second, there's something at the bottom of this. Why is he so negative all the time? Well, he hates his job. So I found a way to make him love his job.
So you were manager at that point when you
Yes.
did that. Yeah, I think that's something that's not, unfortunately, not overly common for people in that position, where the first instinct isn't necessarily like what yours was, instead of like, let me reprimand him, let me write him
Mhm.
up, let me do something, it was like, okay, well, why?
Mhm.
What is driving it?
Yes.
I don't know if that's necessarily, I'm guilty of it. I'm not a manager, but I've been guilty of that too, where it's in any situation where it's something like that, and the first instinct is to write this person off, like, oh,
Mhm.
screw them, why are they doing this? Instead
Mhm.
of well,
Pause and ask
yeah,
for why.
exactly. Instead of doing that, it's just like, oh man, this person's like out of their mind or whatever.
Sure.
So I like hearing that is very, it's like it's encouraging that that's there. Obviously, that's that type of thing is there, but it's also discouraging in that it's unfortunate that it's not as
That's common.
commonplace. Because for you, like in everything you've described so far, a lot of that has a lot of how you are has been because of the people around you, but you've also kind of sucked it all in at like a sponge. You've been able to add a lot
Absolutely.
of it on your own too. Obviously, the people around you are important, but you've been able to kind of get all that done by yourself. So it's because the part of why I do this whole thing is to kind of learn how people do what they do, what makes them who they are. But that something like that, I don't know how much of that.
Is very common.
Yeah, like I
It's
don't know if it
not.
even like it is, because I'm not someone that usually is like you have it or you don't. I usually feel like you can generally work on anything, but something like that, I don't know if you can. Maybe you can,
And
but I
don't
don't
get
know.
me wrong, I've had some really bad apples where no matter what you try, they're just bad apples, And unfortunately, some people go to work for a paycheck. And when they go to work simply for a paycheck, they're bound not to perform 100%. They're bound to do things the wrong way or, bring in some negative attitude because it's simply for a paycheck. So you have to have, strong people at the same time to balance it all so that it's not just bad, 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 but the strong also carry their weight and balance it all. But I think, the why, especially, oh my God, Apple is so big on that. I wasn't even as great at Wells Fargo. I think I gained a new skill set at Apple because even to give someone feedback, you first have to ask for permission. Is this a good time to talk? Can I
Hmm.
give you some feedback? Because you want to make sure they're in the right mindset. Are they going to
That's a
take it
good
the
point.
right way? And if they say no, then forget it. This isn't the time to give them feedback. Step away, give them their space, and when they're ready, you will talk. And you always ask the person why, and you always have them do like this self-discovery journey of what could have done differently and what could have made that experience better. So it's never like reprimanding or I'm going to tell you what to do. You make them discover what should have been a better solution. Make sense? And that was what Apple's culture was all
Hmm.
about. And we're all the same, we're all equal, we're all about um, discussing and coming up with the best solution. Kind of that was the mentality. So I picked up a lot of things there as well that I took with me to the real estate world, because when I deal with angry sellers or unhappy clients, I always pause and think, okay, why? And how can I help them? How do I listen to them? How do I find the keywords? What is it that's bothering them the most? And how do I make it better?
So from the bank to Apple, it doesn't seem like a typical route, and I think you kind of
It's
alluded to it.
not.
So how did that even happen? Did you know someone, or did you just
Oh my
randomly see a
God.
posting? You're like, let me just
It's
apply.
such a good story because it would only happen to me. So I had a huge passion for the product, which I don't
Nope,
see an
I'm
Apple.
one of the
I
ones
don't see
that's
an iPhone on the
actually, he's
table.
also no iPhones. You're the only
May I
one.
go home now? No,
You've
it's
been
totally okay.
somehow you're in the
Yeah,
minority.
by the end of this conversation, you'll be buying an iPhone. No big deal. So
If that happens, I'll be impressed. I haven't had
um,
one since the
I,
iPhone
I
4.
had a huge passion for the product. I loved how simple it was. I'm not going to go into details.
Yeah, of
Apple is
course.
perfect, no
Hmm.
question about it. So when I had so much passion, people would make fun of me. I was always up to date with my products, and I would persuade others to buy it. So here I was at Wells Fargo. Instead of selling bank accounts, I was selling them Apple products, and they're like, do you get commission off of this? I'm like, I wish. So I think it was a friend that we were having a discussion, and I kind of felt like I hit a top layer where I wasn't really learning anything. The job didn't seem challenging enough anymore for me at Wells Fargo. I had district managers calling me for advice, and I'm like, oh my God, like if I'm here and others at a higher level are calling me for advice, how am I going to learn anything? How am I going to grow in this environment anymore? So I had a friend and she's like, don't you love Apple? I'm like, of course I love Apple. She's like, why don't you work there? I'm like, would they even consider me? And I heard that it's very difficult to get into Apple.
Mm.
And boy, was I right, because it is very difficult to get into Apple. But, with my persistency, anything I set my mind to, I'm going to get there. I remember, and I shared the story before, but I remember I had messaged at least 100 people on LinkedIn, similar paragraphs that had some sort of connection with Apple. I didn't know what their job title was. I couldn't even understand the job titles. I just knew that I had to get someone to get to know me. I knew that the referral system worked much better. If they had referred me, then I would get an interview much sooner. And I messaged 100 people or more. And 90% of them ignored the message. 9.9% of them said, I don't know you. I'm not going to vouch for you. And that 0.01%, Alan, I will never forget, responded to me. And he said, let's have a chat tomorrow. And that's all I needed, one chat, for someone to get to know me, to stop looking at me as a resume, but as a person behind the resume. And we had a chat, and I thought that was an interview. It wasn't. He was really just trying to get to know me. So I made such a big deal about it. I told everyone, I'm like, guys, this is happening. Next day, it's nothing. He's not even from the state I'm looking for. He's not even the position I'm looking for. But it opened the door. He introduced me to someone else. Someone else introduced me to someone else until it got me to the location I needed. And only 10 interviews later, only 10, I was selected as a manager there. So that to me was a huge accomplishment, but it goes to show you persistency, not giving up and chasing for what you want. I could have easily, it literally took me 1 year to get that position. From the time it hit my mind, I want to join Apple, to the time I became a manager, 1 year. A lot of people I know would have quit much sooner.
But all things considered, I think I agree. I think a lot of people would have, but all things considered, I think that's a pretty quick turnaround. I think it is.
With my patience, with my speed,
I would feel the same. But since I'm not in this situation, since I'm here looking at them, I can say
I got you.
But if I described it to you and you were to tell me, I think
1
that's
year.
pretty quick. I would have said the same thing. Like, are you kidding me?
I waited for 1 year.
Yeah.
And I remember the last interview. So the recruiter called me and she said, we still need to do your background check, but the position is yours, but don't tell anyone because we still need to do your background check. And I'm thinking, I have a flawless background. Like besides my tickets, my driving tickets, there's nothing they're going to find. So I'm like, don't worry, I won't tell anyone. I hang up. I call my district manager, my mom, my sister, my best friend. I tell the whole story. I'm like, have a wonderful day, everyone. It was nice. So I couldn't wait. So it did seem like forever to me. But yes, I guess all things aside.
So there's a couple things I want to dissect in that answer. One of the more towards the end you mentioned, simply just from the process. You said there was 10 interviews for that one job. You went through 10 interviews. So I think the most I've gone through, I've done like an initial phone screening. I've done the in-person. And the in-person was like split up. It was like in-person with like maybe 3 different people. So like I would talk to one person, go somewhere else, talk to someone else. So maybe all in all, I've maybe had like through the entire from
the beginning
to hiring was maybe 5 to 6. Double what yours is double. And that's not unique to Apple. I'm sure there's a lot of them that do that. So first part of the question is, do you think it's necessary, that amount, for example? So for your job there, when you went through the 10 interviews, at what point were you like, how many more, because this is ridiculous, if you even had that? And then once you got hired, and once you started working with the type of people you were working with there, because you mentioned everyone's like-minded. So was there a point that you realized, okay, this makes sense why there's this many, or even after everything, you're like, this is ridiculous, that's way too many?
I think you got to remember with my journey, what was different is I started over here in the state. And by the time I was routed to the right individual, because there was no opening for my location and I didn't know the right contacts, that's why it took even longer than expected. And yeah, absolutely. There were moments where I felt like the interview went great and then I wouldn't hear from them for 2 months. And, there was this ups and downs and I'm like, are they teasing me? Why did they say, oh, it was a pleasure? Why did you tell me that? Why did you say it went great when you gave me all this false hope? And then I don't hear from anyone. anyone. And then I hear from someone again. But going to the hand-selected individuals, when I entered the store and I saw, we call them geniuses for a
Mhm.
reason. They're all geniuses. The type of people that work at Apple, they're talented in one way or another, and they're hand-selected individuals. I mean it. Like even the regular interviews we would do for non-management positions, they would go through several levels, and there was a different process in place on how we select like-minded individuals, and different-minded as well, to bring in a different approach to the store. But they're all hand-selected, and then it made sense. Then it hit me. I'm like, okay, it was worth it. Because look at all the smart. And then I went to the store. I'm like, oh my God, what's my talent? Teresa, what's your
Mm.
talent? Think of a talent, because they're all so great. And I know nothing. I just have great people skills. So found my talent.
That makes sense because I've had, again, just the number of interviews that I said is like half of that one in one process, and even then I'm like, this seems so excessive. It's like at
Uh-huh.
this, like it's because for me, I felt at a certain point, it's like, don't you know at this point
That I'm
if
the
I
person.
because I'm thinking, okay, the first step I get it's with HR. Generally, that's the one just to make sure you're a normal person,
Uh-huh.
you're not gonna do anything crazy, and
Uh-huh.
people can handle you. Once that one is, because that one has nothing to do with the job
Yeah.
itself,
Yeah,
never,
yeah, yeah.
right? So once you get past that, you go to maybe like the hiring manager or someone on the team. That
District
one,
manager
yeah,
right after.
that one, fine, I get it. And then like they add so many different levels, and for me, at some points, like, shouldn't from like the company side, shouldn't you feel comfortable enough from the people in your company? Let's say it's the manager. If the manager, it's reached the manager, you've had maybe 2 levels. Now you're at the manager. Manager decides, okay,
I want this person.
I would take this person, but right now I have to go one more level up and then one more level. It seems like there's a lot of red tape in the process. Because I think because one thing I think is like at a certain point, let's say you have a good candidate. Well, it's the perfect candidate, but they just get frustrated. They're like, you
Yeah,
know what,
I'm out.
I'm out of here. Or the other thing
But
is,
can I tell you something?
yeah, go
The
ahead.
person that says I'm out wasn't the perfect candidate.
That's fair, but
It's true.
my counter to that will be my counter to that is that you've had, if the process is that long, so yours from when you actually applied, like on the website, from when you applied to hire, it was 1 year,
1
or you're
year.
saying from when the thought came to your mind?
Knowing my speed, the thought came, the application
Right,
was already
okay.
happening.
So 1 year, it's fast in the sense that I said for you, like you thought of it and it materialized in a year. In that regards, it's fast. But looking at it as just a job application process, I think that's insanely long. Right?
Yes.
So for that reason, my counter, because you're like, if you're the perfect person, you wouldn't go out. The reason my counter to it is
Life
1
happens
year is
during that
because
period.
in that 1 year, they're not going to wait for just that one company. Some people might,
Uh-huh.
but someone else might approach them.
You're
Maybe
right.
someone else reaches out,
You're
and then
right.
you, as a company, you lose out. So I'm arguing from like the company's perspective, where it's like,
You
okay,
just
we got to
lost the
pull the trigger.
talent.
We got to pull the trigger. Do we like this person or not? Do we really need to
see.
go through 7 more
I
processes?
see.
Because we might lose out on a lot of people when we do this. Because I do get why you're saying if you're you're the perfect
Absolutely.
person, you'd go out. But it's like they still might be really good or even perfect, but you might have just been too slow on the trigger.
You make a good point. I still want to believe when you want something for the right reasons. I was chasing Apple because I wanted that culture change, and I wanted to know what Apple was all about. I wanted to dive into the foundation and see what makes Apple so great, which I will tell you all about it after this. But when you want something for the right reasons, you wait for it. It's so much better when you get it at the end. So not for a second, as much as I was disappointed after not hearing from them, when I got that call that it was mine, it made it all worth it. You forget all the pain you went through that year and the roller coaster of emotions. You forget because now it's yours. It's the same thing kind of with my escrows. I have some very difficult escrows. Some escrows that are supposed to be 30 days long end up being 60 days long. That's 60 days, that extra 30 days, you have to babysit a seller, you have to babysit an escrow officer, you have to babysit a title rep. There's so many parties, a buyer involved to keep them calm for an additional 30 days that was completely unexpected. And during that period, if you're not patient enough, right? If you don't chase for what's right and you don't wait for it, then you will never get to enjoy that ending, that moment of celebration. So I think, it was yet something else that I had to overcome, that waiting period. I get what you're saying. I think you're right. But, with Apple, as much as they were like-minded, they were also very different with their opinions. Everyone brought something else to the table. So during an interview, when a manager would say, I want this candidate, but other people would say, wait a minute, this is something that I noticed during the interview and I don't think this is the right person. And that discussion is what made it better. So it allowed them to eliminate and truly pick someone that's just right for that location. Because think of it this way, as a manager, you place such a big impact on the culture of the entire store. The energy starts with you, it ends with you. At Apple, we would do downloads first thing in the morning. We would pass on a very important message to the team, along with some inspiration, motivation, some good stories to make sure that the day goes well. It's a very stressful environment too. As much as we had fun at work, imagine telling a person that you just lost every picture and every text message or a photo of your father who passed away. I've had those conversations. You don't want to have those
Yeah, I can only
conversations.
imagine.
And it gets very stressful, and you're dealing with people with a lot of emotion. You know how much we're tied to our iPhones. You know nothing about that feeling, but how much we're tied to them. And when it's taken away from you, it's a painful experience. So to be in that environment, knowing who sets the tone for the day, is it the right person? It does make sense why they were so selective.
So in that process at Apple specifically, so I'm sure you've yourself have hired people. You've been part of the
Absolutely.
process to hire someone. So after it went to what, district manager? Is that the next level?
So I was a manager and there was a store leader, and then there is a district manager. So yes, the district manager, the store leader would interview, and then the district manager would do a meet and greet, which 90% of the time he would vouch for those people because we had already given the green light, but
Okay.
there would be that 10% where he would be like, nope, not a good fit.
So at the physical store, there was one person higher than you. The store leader is also at the physical location?
Depends. Sometimes
Depends.
she would come and check on us. Sometimes she wouldn't be there.
So
not always.
you're
I'm
the more
running the actual
maintained. Okay.
store. Yes.
So again, kind of what I was mentioning before, I would think at that point, if let's say I'm you, I'm the one that's always there. Now there's two people above me,
outside that
but
aren't really there.
yeah, so you're gonna have a better idea of the chemistry and how it works. Now these two people might speak to them as well, and maybe they have some kind of something about it
Sure,
isn't.
that's off.
But if you're the person that deals with everyone else, and if you interviewed them and you're already thinking, I can pull the trigger on this person, that means you've already factored one, they can do the job,
Sure.
they seem smart enough,
They fit
and they
in.
can fit in.
Okay.
So, and then two other people that aren't there as often as you say, "Well, I don't know." I feel like I'd be like, well, I'm here more often in a
I
more
see.
in a
Yes,
more in a more
absolutely.
pretty way. I'd say like I'm here more often than you, so I
I
think
get to
it's gonna
decide what works. The goal is one Apple, like we're all the same.
Mhm.
So now they're looking at a bigger picture because if this person is going to grow with the company, right, that's the goal. How do they fit in with the district now? And then from the district level, how do they fit in with the market? So it was really about looking at the big picture. And you being at the store level, you may miss something because
That's true.
you're biased and you're only focusing, oh my God, I love their energy. This is great. But the big picture, what if as they grow into their roles, they don't fit in with the district? What if they don't fit in with the market? You know what I mean? So I get what you mean, and sometimes it would be frustrating when you put the green mark on a candidate and someone else comes with negative feedback. You're like, what do you mean? I thought I made a great decision, but you also don't want to be that person to make a bad hire because it's very difficult to work with a bad hire.
Did that ever happen for you
Oh, it happened
at Apple? Like where you?
It happened at Wells Fargo. I think Wells Fargo was more painful. At Apple, again, just because everyone's just so talented, I was so in love with the environment. You forgave and you moved past it because they had other areas where they were just so great. But at Wells Fargo, it was tougher because, it takes steps to get someone out of the store to transfer them or to reprimand them. And it just was difficult. But I have made bad hires and I regret to say, but I've gotten better at getting to know people and reading the good and the bad very quickly.
So when that's happened, well, let's say at Wells Fargo, so it happened, you hired someone who was a bad hire. Where's the first source of feedback on the bad hire that comes from? Is it you that first realizes you're like, oh no, this wasn't the right thing, or is it maybe like the person above you that's comes through?
I truly believe that someone's true colors are bound to come up sooner
At some
and
point,
later. We have a saying in Armenian, it takes 40 days for someone's true colors to come out. But it was inevitable for us to see who they really are. Some people are just really good at faking an interview. Some people are just really good at first impressions, but not anything else. So it was whether it was feedback directly from the team, like, oh my God, I can't get along with this person. He's not listening. He's not contributing. He's not doing the things he's supposed to. Or me noticing lack of performance. A good hire should back it up with performance. All these fields I've worked on have been performance you know, performance measured places. So if you don't perform, you can't be a good hire. It goes hand in hand, you know. So lack of performance was another indication that not necessarily a good hire.
Makes sense. So the other part of your answer about the process with Apple that I wanted to ask. So you mentioned you started reaching out to people on LinkedIn that work there, whatever it was that you just reached out
Yes.
to a bunch of people. I've been in this boat too, where
Wasn't that fun?
yeah, because as you were breaking down the numbers, I was like,
Yep, been there, done
it's
that.
that small of a fraction. Because it'll happen where I'm even in this process of like trying to get guests, for example, I'll I'll find people that I'm interested in, or I think that it would be an interesting conversation, something I'd learn, whatever. And I'm sending out the emails, and a fraction of the people will respond. And now, part of the reason where, for me now, like I'm going in knowing that's most likely going to be the case, but I'm comfortable with it, is because of the process with LinkedIn. Because
Yeah.
I remember when I was in school, what I initially wanted to do, I would reach out to people in that field. I would just like send a bunch of messages. A lot of people didn't respond, but the few that did overtook the ones that didn't.
Absolutely.
It's like it doesn't even matter that 50 of them didn't even say anything.
Absolutely.
It's just the fact that I got 3 that did made those other 50.
forget.
Yeah, it's like it's as if it didn't happen.
Yes.
One response of any sort, even honestly, even if they responded saying,
It's not the right
yeah, like,
fit.
you know,
Yes.
like I'm busy, or
Yes.
I wish you the best of luck, but I would recommend this. Anything, just
Yeah.
any kind of response helps. Because it's like, at least you it's, for me, it's like a sense of they saw and they cared enough to
Sure.
at least say no.
Sure.
It's just the silence is what's, I think, most discouraging.
But you know what it is? Some people have killed it for you. And what I mean by that is I get these messages and they can't even spell my name right, or they don't even get my name right. Or one guy called me John the other day and I screenshotted it because it was so funny. It was this detailed paragraph. And he's like, "Hey, John, it's a pleasure meeting you and I'd love to connect with you." And then I responded, "You know, I'll tell John when I see him." So it was just like, it kills me. Sorry, it kills
That's
me
fine.
because I think some people have ruined that process for you. Had others been more genuine and taken time to really get to know the subject, you know, and to get to know the name, such a
Yeah.
basic concept, you would think it's easy to figure out. It's not. That it becomes tedious. Like sometimes I open my LinkedIn and I have all these unread messages, and sometimes I dread going through it because it's like automated, copy paste, no attention to detail.
Right.
I think what really stands out is that personal touch.
Yeah.
Add a little personal touch, add a little bit of humor, watch how it's going to change. And don't expect to just get, you got to give to get something in return. How much do you really interact with that person? How much do you really support their business? When was the last time you liked or commented or celebrated something good in their life? You
Right.
know, when were you there for them and how do you expect them to be there for you in return? Make sense?
Yeah.
I feel like when someone needs something from you, they immediately reach out. But when you really needed their support, where were you?
Yeah, they're gone.
So some people have ruined LinkedIn and other sources where I've become the person that kind of doesn't answer because they've ruined the experience for me, you know, and I want to be an Alan for as many people as possible. Like this one team member reached out, he's a new realtor, and he said he watched another interview where I talked about Alan, the one person that answered me on LinkedIn, and he said, "I want you to be the Alan for me. Will you take a moment?"
That's
and
smart,
blah,
yeah.
blah, blah. And it was like an essay that followed. I took more than a moment. I read the essay. We did a phone call. And I bet you after this, everyone is going to use that line because now I just gave away the secret. But we truly took some time where I gave him some pointers and tips on what he needs to do to help with his business. So get to know the person in front of you, get to know the subject, be more supportive, and add a personal touch, and you will see the difference.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. But at the same time, I'm gonna go back on the guy that said, John, I have to defend him because I've made that same mistake. And
How do you
when
defend him?
I defend him by saying it happens.
It happens and it's okay?
No, not at
It's
all.
not okay.
I actually, I was showing him. I had emailed someone, and I was, because what I'll do is, yours was with LinkedIn. It's different because LinkedIn, you have such a small amount of characters to work with when you're sending the initial invite, right? Because I didn't have you added, so I have to send you a request, and in the request, it's like what, 180, 300, whatever.
How do you stand out in 180 characters?
So you have a limited amount. So that one, it's a little trickier to kind of, it's not trickier to copy paste it, but I feel like it's much more evident that it's copy pasted because it's such fewer things. So with yours, for example, I actually manually did it. But like I have
I'm so
other
proud
ones,
of you.
yeah. I have other ones though where like I'll send like a template that I typed out and
Uh-huh.
then I'll send it out. So this one person I did that. And then
Wrong
the thing
thing.
is, yeah, that's the thing. That's what will piss me off is like I'll still spot check it. So I sent it, and then I was showing them the template. Like this was I sent it. A few days have gone by. I think everything's fine. I'm showing him the template, and as I'm forwarding it to him, I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't change the name on this one part. And I was like, it's not okay.
Did you
It's
ever
definitely
get a
not. No, I
response?
didn't.
I don't think you
I did,
will.
and I don't
He
think I
probably
will.
screenshotted you and put it you on Instagram stories
It's
and laughed
fair.
about it for a little
I
bit.
think that's fair.
'Cause that's what I did.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. But at the same time, I think it's important when something like that happens, right? So
Sure.
that's my mistake. It's important to realize it because if you're just make an excuse for it. For example, like let's say the person you were kind of joking with came back kind of defensive. I think that shows that you're not
not
being
learning.
accountable and
You're not
exactly
growing.
you're not learning. So I did it as soon as I did it because that's happened before.
Now
Like
you're
things of
like a
that.
perfectionist about it.
I try to be. I try to make
See?
it's not going to happen, but I think it's important to try and strive for it. I think it's
Absolutely.
important to know that it's not realistic to we might disagree here. I think it's not realistic to be perfect, but I think it's important to go for it because then at
Absolutely.
least you're chasing something to get as close to it as you can.
Absolutely.
Because the way I look at it, if I was perfect, that's so boring.
Absolutely.
It's
You're
like
right.
what am I? What else? What's left? What am I
I'll
supposed to
tell
do?
you a story about that.
Yeah.
There was a famous painter and he had a vision to paint this drawing and he spent nights and days and he didn't eat and he didn't interact with people and he was just stuck in his room painting and painting and painting. And then he finished it and it was a masterpiece. And then he said, now what? Life was over. Like he didn't understand what's next. I just achieved this level of success. Now what? So yeah, I think when you're perfect, now what? It is boring to be perfect. So no, we don't disagree on that. As much as I strive
Right.
for perfection, I'm very well aware of my imperfections. There's tons of them. I'm aware of them. But I don't focus on them. I'm not going to put a spotlight on the imperfections. I'm going to make sure you get all the good sides.
Yeah.
Right?
But as long as you yourself
You
are the
have
ones
to
that's
be
conscious.
aware. Absolutely.
So what would be your advice on that? Because again, I think it's something that I had initially would struggle with, and I think a lot of people will, where it's like you're not comfortable with what you're not good at, whatever it is.
Sure.
So specifically, like let's say in this field where it's like you're doing something career oriented. Let's say your resume, you mess up on the resume or your interview.
Sure.
How would you recommend if you had a team member come to you and say, look, I'm kind of uncomfortable in this setting. Like I feel like I'm not good at this, but it's hard for me to kind of accept it. When was one of the few things that you can remember that you started realizing, okay, I'm not good at this. How do I work on it? As opposed to being defensive and saying, no, everything is fine.
Sure. My approach when I'm not good at something, find someone who's the best at it and go ask them for advice. I don't think people realize there's people willing to share. If 5 will say no, 1 Alan will say yes. Find someone the best at it. And that's kind of what I did with my real estate journey. I partnered with a realtor that was a top realtor for 20 plus years. And I said, here, I don't care about the commission split. I don't care that I'm going to make less. I want to learn from you because you must be really good to be doing this for this long and have the great reputation that you do. Now I want to be that sponge and pick up the things from you. So I found I wasn't a good realtor. I wasn't born a good realtor. I became a really, really good one. And the way I became one is I found the people that are the best at it and I picked their brains and I asked them questions and I observed and I watched and I practiced and I didn't give up. And then I added a sprinkle of my touch on it and then it was a different combination.
So that person that you found that was your first mentor in
Yes.
in the real estate industry, you found them through where?
They actually found me. They saw my energy and my posts and my activity on social media and they reached out and they said, I really like what you're doing, because this was an older person who's been doing the business for so long differently. And here I was with a fresh approach because I was very tech savvy and I had a different marketing idea in mind. And I was comfortable in front of a camera and I was comfortable speaking to an audience. And I was coming from Apple and using that as well in my previous experiences. So he reached out. He said, I really like your energy, love your approach. Would you want to be on my team? So it was more of them kind of identifying the talent in me. Otherwise, I was lost. I didn't know where to go. I didn't know who to ask. I had an amazing broker in the beginning of my career. He was a genius, but he was so busy.
Mm.
There's only so much you can ask from a person that's running a massive business who's very busy with realtors who are actually making money versus here, $0, zero sales, but is dying to do more and is dying to do better. So having that mentor in place and one-on-one coaching, we got to listing appointments together. We did client showings together. There's so much I learned from that process. And I'm proud to say when I added my approach to it, it was a completely different animal.
So when that person found you, you were already in real estate. You
I
were
was in
just under
real
that other
estate
broker that you
doing
said they were
zero
busy.
sales.
Okay. So how much time were you doing it at that point?
3 months.
So within 3 months of doing it, this person found you.
This person found me because I was very loud. Anything I do, I'm very loud. I want to make sure everybody knows about it. So because I was loud, I caught his attention and he said, let's talk, let's meet for lunch, let's discuss. I said, sure, let's do it.
Where did you post? You said it was through your videos he found it?
Yes,
It was...
I would do a lot of posts on Facebook, on
Mhm.
Instagram, on LinkedIn, and it was mostly me bragging about the house that's not even my listing, So, but to others, they didn't know this. And now it's funny. The other day, someone asked, "Is that really all your listings?" Because I've just been very, very busy, and I'm like, "You think I have time to post someone else's listings?" Like I've upgraded from that level. I'm like, "Of course, it's all my listings. I don't even have the time to post my own."
So when did you start doing the videos? Was it like as soon as you entered the industry, you started doing it? Like when did you think of that? Because like you said, you approached it as it's a different way of
And don't
doing
get me
it.
wrong, I don't think that's the key to my success. I think my sphere of influence, my background in
Right.
banking, I brought in a lot of clients from banking to the real estate world, and I have a lot of CPAs I'm partnered with. I have a lot of attorneys I'm partnered with. So I think it was the whole picture that kind of took me the right direction, but I had to start somewhere. So the videos thing, no, I always loved to have fun and to show my personality. And I thought, okay, let me turn the camera. My broker was a genius in marketing. I remember when I first started, I was just like a sponge picking his brain. And he would always say, just constantly stay alive, remind people that you exist. And I'm like, okay, I got this, So I would put on a smile, I would turn the camera to my face, and I would talk. I would talk about the housing market. I would talk about buyers that I had looking for homes. I would talk about the home that I was open house sitting, not even my listing. And I would talk. I was loud and I caught his attention. He mentored me. And then I kind of, I get that feedback a lot from my clients too. They say your marketing is different, like the way you approach your clients is different. The videos you do is different. It's because of my personal touch. Like I tweak everything to my liking. I add humor. For example, I posted bloopers one day, which LinkedIn is supposed to be this professional, environment where everything has to be perfect, right? No curse words, the script, you're dressed right, and I was doing a video shoot of one of my listings, a lease listing, a property that I was leasing, and the camera guy, the videographer sends me the videos, and then I'm like, oh my God, this is hilarious. And I watched this in action behind the scenes. He sent me the whole thing so I could pick which one I want to do. I'm like, oh my God, I want all of it. Like, this is great stuff. I'm going to post this. And I remember I was fixing my hair in the background. I'm like, do I look okay? He's like, of course not. I'm like, give me some compliments, damn it. So there was some humor in the background. There was arguments. There was laughter. There was curse words. I bleeped those out. And I posted it. I put it all together. I posted it. And the amount of reaction that I got on LinkedIn, 2 negatives, I'll never forget the negative comments, and I'm sure others, but they didn't express it, and tons of positive, tons. Because right prior to that video, I had posted the perfect version, the LinkedIn version, and then I said, you know what? This is how many takes it gets. It takes to get to the perfect level. And I think people loved that. And I came up with it on my own, So I think adding your personal touch to things is, and I know others do bloopers too. And I kept watching realtors post bloopers since then. I'm like, this sounds very familiar. I've seen this somewhere, but some of it felt forced. And I know that mine was simply captured off camera. And I'm like, oh my God, this is perfect. This is genius. I'm definitely putting myself out there like this.
I think that's something that I think the reason you see positive responses to something like that is when it isn't forced, when it's legitimately you're kind of unaware the camera's going and you're still just being yourself.
Yes.
The people that already watch your stuff,
can tell.
the one they can tell too, they appreciate it too. They're like, oh, so there is
a
some kind
human side to you.
exactly.
You're not always
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's the feedback that mostly I got. Of course, two people didn't agree with it. I will never forget these two people. But most of them said, it's so good to know that you're not perfect. It's so good to know that it is difficult for you to get the video right and the text right. And it takes so many attempts to get there.
So your utilization of social media, when do you think, because I think you're not I think you're very effective on how you do it. At what point do you remember when it was where you realized, okay, I'm actually figuring this out? Like, I think I know what garners attention here, here, here. What will elicit this kind of response? This kind of response. Was that all from you yourself? You learned it. That it was just through. Because I think you mentioned just trial and error. But was the social media side entirely you?
Trial and error.
Yeah.
All me. My LinkedIn, I have like 29,000 connections on LinkedIn. All me. My social media, some people buy followers. I don't do that. I feel like, oh my God, that's like putting a nice sticker on something, but underneath something's broken. I don't want to do that. My social media was all me. It was trial and error. I saw what got the most reaction out of people, and I saw what they like to see. Like, if I post a house for sale, it's not going to get as much of a response as I post a picture of me and my daughter. People love to see your life and the real you, the person behind all that success. So I know what gets me the most response, and I try to keep a balance of it. But I follow Gary Vee, and he says this all the time: stop trying to post the things that you think other people will like, and just post the content that you're most passionate about, because that's when you'll see the results will come. Stop focusing on the number of likes and the number of comments and the number of followers. Focus on your passion and focus on that content. Does this make you happy? Do you approve of this message? Go for it. Makes sense? So it was truly trial and error. I didn't take any classes. I didn't partner with anyone. The other day, someone asked me, they're like, you do all this business and you manage your own social media? Like, they couldn't believe it's possible. I'm like, yeah, I don't trust anyone with this. This is my baby. I made it come this far. I'm not giving this to someone else, which I'm sure other professionals would do a 10 times better of a job. But I'm kind of a control freak, not very easy to work with. And I like things my way. So I take it all on me. Me, I'll do it.
Yeah. Plus, again, it comes back to authenticity when you're the one actually running it.
Yes.
If you unannounced handed it off to someone else,
they'll feel the difference.
Exactly.
You nailed it. Authenticity is so crucial today. There is so much of the non-authentic content, and it baffles me, and people fall for it, because some people do and others can feel, but authenticity is huge. And I think it did wonders for me too in my business. People knew that I was being authentic and I was being myself, but it takes them time to get to know that. When I first joined Apple, this energy, this is like end of day exhausted energy. It's 10 times more early in the morning. So when I first joined Apple and I would do these morning downloads, people would be like, there's no way this is the real you. Like, no one can truly be this happy and energized all the time. I'm like, you just wait. A few months into it, they're like, what is wrong with you? This is the real you. Like, there's no off day. I don't understand. So it takes time for people to realize that this is authentic, because in the beginning, people will be like, oh, she's putting on a show. There's no way she's always that happy and smiling and energetic and that passionate. There's no way she truly loves her job that much. And then they're like, oh my God, okay, she's obsessed with her job. She loves her clients. She loves what she does. And she's absolutely committed to it.
Yeah, I think it's just the cynical side. I remember I first saw your content like some time ago. And for me, it's like a default thing. Everything I approach already with skepticism. So I saw that, I'm like, are you really that happy?
Yeah.
And then like as I kept seeing, I'm like, yeah, maybe she just is. And now that we've actually got you in person,
you're like, oh my God.
Yeah, because like just right when we got out of the elevator and met you, already like super happy. I'm like,
absolutely.
I don't know how many people would be that thrilled to be here. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, oh my God, best moment. Let's do it.
Yeah. So I think that's what's a big differentiator, because again that's why I said like I wouldn't be. I'm surprised. Well, I'll backtrack, because I was gonna say that's why I wouldn't be a good realtor. I still think I wouldn't be a good realtor because I can't do that. I can't come
I'm not hiring you after so many times you telling me you're not a good realtor.
I don't see why you wouldn't at this point. I feel like I put my best foot forward.
Really, was this the best? We can do better.
Yeah, it's just because I think you can tell, like, if I try to do this, like I try and be all, I don't even know how to do it first of all, but let's say I somehow figured it out. I found a video that's like, this is how you fake being happy, like bubbly, for example.
Yes.
It's gonna be so evident, even if you don't know me. First impression. It's the first time someone opens the door, someone walks in, they're like, yeah, no way,
fake,
not a chance.
Too much.
Yeah,
Mhm.
But but again, I saw more of yours because again, you have a lot of interaction with yours. So at the time, I still didn't have you added on mine, so it wasn't that I would see it anyway. But because I had so many other people who were already,
Liking and
it
commenting,
would
it
still
would
show
pop
up.
up.
So the
Yes.
first time I saw it, I'm like, I don't know, is it real? Then I saw it again and again and again. I'm like, she's still at it. Like she still seems
She's still
pretty
going,
happy.
guy.
Yeah,
There's a pandemic and she's still going. Like, when does she stop?
yeah.
The other day, I was doing an interview a while back, pre-COVID, and there was a gentleman that first called me for a phone interview to kind of go over my story, and then we did a face-to-face, and he said, what's surprising is, as I speak with you over the phone and I'm watching you on social media, it's the same person. He's like, it's so rare these days for the person on social media to be the same person in life. How do you do that? Besides, some filters that I work with, but it's still the same person. So I'm proud of that. I take pride in that I remain the same person. I stay true to myself, and I hope I can keep that up for as long as I can.
Yeah, I think that goes back to what you said that you heard Gary Vee say. It was he said when you're posting something, don't worry about what will get the likes. It's just
Yes.
put,
Post what you're most passionate
and that
about.
goes again to that, because
Absolutely.
I think if you intentionally cater
To the
to,
crowd.
if I stand this way, if I wear
Mhm.
this, if I do
Mhm.
that or that, it will get 10% more.
Yes.
Again, that itself might slide if it's like a dress thing, let's say, for example. But I think you internally, you're gonna know, this isn't what I wanted to do though.
Yes.
I did this strictly for that." And I
Yes.
think there's people that they don't care, they'll do it anyway. I think there's a lot of people actually, unfortunately, that will do
Absolutely.
that.
Absolutely.
And I think again, that's where that X factor is, of the people that are doing it legitimately and for the
But
sake
that's
of
how
like,
you stand out.
yeah, exactly. It's like,
You
we're like,
know,
I'm actually happy I sold the house. I'm actually happy I helped these people do
there's
this or
tons
that.
of realtors that kind of do what I do with social media, for example, but their level of success is nowhere near that. And I don't mean it in a bragging way, but my recent most biggest accomplishment that I can share with real estate, I was recognized as, yes, this is going to come up, everyone's going to make fun of it, but top 1% of realtors, Coldwell Banker realtors
Mhm.
worldwide, and there's hundred thousands of us. So you can imagine there's a lot of tech savvy people, there's a lot of people that utilize social media, but they're not in top 1%. So where is the differentiation? What differentiates one from the other? And I think authenticity makes a huge impact. I am who I am and I stay true to who I am. I can't change that. And the other part is, not everyone does it with the same level of passion. Not everyone does it with the idea of, how do I perfect myself? How do I get better? How do I please more people? Some people pause and take breaks, which is necessary. Everyone gets mad at me for not doing that. Some people celebrate. I've mentioned this before, is the biggest mistake realtors make is after each close, after each successful transaction, they celebrate. When you celebrate, you switch your brain off.
Mm.
You are in vacation mode. You just took the moment of the biggest adrenaline rush, right? This huge check, a happy client, a beautiful family got into their home, or a successful sale, record breaking. You took that adrenaline rush and you turned it off. You turned it off because you said, now I'm about to go on vacation, or now I'm going to go and waste this money on shopping, whatever it may be. So they celebrate. With me, it's like, I take that as a fuel. Oh my God, I just helped someone great. How do I use this moment to help 5 other people?
Mm.
That's kind of the difference maker. And it's tremendous work ethic. I get this feedback from others. They're like, I don't know how you do it. I sometimes post my parking lot at, don't get me wrong, this is not the right way to do things, but this is how I do it, at midnight, and there's only one car in my company's parking lot, and it's my car, hence top 1%.
Yeah.
So
So I'm gonna go back to the celebrating. So you said you use a successful sale to fuel
the next
more.
one,
So there's
yes.
no celebration at all for you.
Oh, that's why I said I don't do it the right way. Not enough, not nearly
So
enough
what
to
is
the
your
amount of
celebration?
success. I think my celebration is, I love vacationing with my family. I love vacationing with my daughter. That's all I know, is like, everywhere she's there with me. They're like, how do you have fun with a 7-year-old? I'm like, it's super fun. You don't understand. I get to do all the things that a 7-year-old can do and get away with it. So vacation is one way to celebrate, spending time and turning off, even though I don't fully turn off. Is a way. Spending time with family is a way to celebrate. But no, I don't celebrate nearly enough to the level of achievements that I've had. So people know this. And it's not okay. Don't get me wrong. This isn't the right way, but there needs to be a balance. So I think I need to get better
Mm.
at celebrating a little bit more. I'm just, I'm the type where I'm like, but they need me. People are calling me. How do I put this on hold? How do I pause this? Like, I'm in so many escrows right now. I couldn't even think of it. Well, you can't really travel now anyway, but I couldn't even think of a vacation because I feel like these people are relying on me.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
Again, I think that again goes back to that 1% thing. It's like
yes,
even maybe the 3%, that extra 2 additional% might still be really good, but they might
they
turn
pause more
off that a
often.
little bit more.
They pause more often.
So it's I understand what you're saying in that that's a thing to improve on, but at the same time I also get why you're maybe reluctant. I don't know if that's the right word. Maybe you're reluctant to do it because it's like you said, it's like, well,
It's like,
there's
I
still
love the
people,
title. Are you kidding?
yeah, but people are also depending too.
Of
So
course.
that was your first time getting this specific accolade?
Last year I got top 10% and I thought this is as great as it gets. And when this year I was announced as top 1%, and it was a huge deal because, funny story, my mentor, the person that kind of took me
Mhm.
under my wing, was in top 10% this year.
Mm.
And I was in top 1%. So there I was sitting and they're about to announce the last name in the ceremony. And I'm like, wait, they didn't say my name. And not for a second. I knew I was going to get something. I just didn't know how great of a thing I was going to get. And when they had said everyone's names, including my mentors, I'm like, there's no way. And they're describing this person. I'm like, that's me. That's spot on my description. Oh my God, this is about to happen. So it was, unfortunately, it had to happen on a Zoom meeting.
I
So
saw
my
the
reaction,
video.
yes, was on video. But I wish, because that energy was just flowing through me. I was, tears, joy, everything. I was shocked because it totally made all that hard work worth it. I didn't know how far I've come. And then it hit me. I'm like, oh my God, I've come far.
You've been there what, like 3-4 years now? You've been doing
3 years.
Yeah, that's not that much
It's
time.
nothing. In real estate, it's nothing because 87% of realtors quit within the first year of getting their
I can see
license
that being the
because they
case,
don't
yeah.
survive. They don't survive. It's commission based. It's 100%. And I tell this to my family all the time. Effort in real estate means nothing. You can put all the effort in the world unless there's results to back it up. It means nothing. So obviously there had to have been results for me to get here. But 3 years, and at first I was shy about the number of years. Now I say it with so much pride because to get to where I am today in 3 years, you can only imagine where I will be in 20 years.
No, yeah, because when I was looking at your page, I was looking at the places you've worked, and it said 3 years. I was like, that can't be right.
Yeah, no,
It doesn't
no
seem.
typo there. There's
Yeah,
no typo there.
I was like, it doesn't seem like it's again just based on like the kind of content, the amount of
Sure.
success you have, the
stories,
houses
yes,
the amount of
yes.
houses you sell. It's like, and again, the base that you have on your social media following, all of that combined,
Absolutely.
there's so many people. It's like
Absolutely.
this in 3 years.
Yes.
It seems, again, that's why I was like,
Top
maybe,
1%.
yeah, yeah.
That's what it
That's a
seems.
good point. Yeah, yeah. No, that's actually a very good point. It's so the one thing, okay, and you can correct me because I might be wrong. So from someone from that's outside the real estate industry, stories that I'll hear from other either realtors that I know or people that have dealt with realtors more than I have had. It seems the industry itself, like if you're a realtor, being in that position, it's very like dog eat dog,
Mhm.
and
Unfortunately.
possibly a lot of backstabbing, things like that.
Unfortunately. There's a
So
lot
that
of
is
ugliness there.
so that is the case. Can you attest to that? I'm not saying you do it, but you've
No, I don't
witnessed,
do
or
it.
has
And
it been attempted towards you? Like it's something that's there.
absolutely, it's been attempted. And it's so sad because you're working, you know, the reason why I got into it was people. I don't care how cheesy it sounds. I wanted to be there for people at such a sensitive time. It was kind of the first thing I discussed with you. And when I saw the amount of ugliness that comes with a lot of money, and transactions, like a most common theme is when realtors try to get their own buyer for their own listing and they don't care who the other party is. Like this one recent transaction, I'll share a story. So the realtor selling the property was actually part owner of the property. So he did a flip, he got a good deal, did a flip. And it was perfect for my clients. And we were the first offer in, and we were the strongest offer. And I know how to write good offers because, top 1%. Let me not reiterate that. So I knew this was the right one. And I had them share their story. And it was a personal story, and it was a very touching story. I don't do this often, but this one was special. So I'm like, okay, let's share their story. And I'm like, there's no way a human being with a heart would ignore that story. And then this person calls me. I wish I could say his name, but he calls me and he goes, "Hey, so you gave me this offer for 620. Would your buyers go up to 625?" I'm like, "Will that guarantee us the house?" He's like, "I'll call you back." So basically, that calls shopping our offer. What he was
Mm.
doing is he was going around his multiple offers and trying to see, like an auction, who's going up. Can I have 5K more? Can I have 7K more? But you're playing with people's lives. And now you're getting it to a number that the property is no longer worth. And you're just being so greedy about me, give me more. And then I wrote them an email. So they left our offer unanswered, which hasn't happened to me in quite some time, for like 10 days. And I wouldn't give up. I was very persistent. For 10 days, no answer. Offer expires in like 3 days unless you put a different expiration date. And I keep following up. I'm like, "Hey, does anyone remember us? Hello, can we get an update on our offer?" Because they're obligated to answer. Even if it's a rejection, they have to answer. And it's still showing active. And all he's doing in this time is gathering offers and then shopping them, calling the next buyer and saying, "Hey, I have a 720. Will you go 725? 725, will you go 730? And that's disgusting. You don't just do that. You give everyone a fair shot and
Mm.
then you can counter them once and that's it. End of story. Everyone gives their highest best. So I replied to one email and I said, "Can you please pause for a moment and read my client's story? There's a story here. I want you to get to know my clients." No response. A few days later, following up, "Hey, can we have an update?" "Oh, I'm sorry, the seller chose another offer." He's the seller. Of course, I know he chose another offer. I said, "Okay, call me when they cancel." Because I'm like, pretty sure they're going to cancel. There is no way that property is worth that much. So there's bound to be challenges with that. So I said, "Call me then." And I still didn't burn bridges there, although I would love to. I didn't burn because I know I'm playing with my client's possible dream home and I want to make sure I protect it as much as possible. But there is ugliness there. Over
That's
$5,000.
what I was.
There was such a story. I wish I could share details, but there was such a touching story behind it. And I'm like, if only you would pause for a second, you would understand why this is the home for them, and they didn't.
$5,000 for people that maybe don't like look at it that way. For an offer to go from 620 to 625, if you take $5,000, the percentage of what 5,000 is to 620 is this.
Yes.
So to even call, because this is where, again, this is why another reason why I might
Why
be a
you
bad
can't
real
be a
estate
realtor.
agent is
Okay, got it.
if the
We
person,
established that today.
yeah, if the person that I'm selling the home, they come to like, "Hey, do you think we can get 5,000 more?" I'll be like, "Listen, man, we're at 620. You want 5,000 more?"
And you want to risk losing a great client? Yes, that's the approach I would take.
So I don't like. I'm curious. I'm kind of curious as you were describing that. I was wondering like, did like this first the question legally? Let's say if you put an offer, right? So you say, okay, $600,000 for the house. You give it to the realtor. Realtor sees it. They have to show the client, right?
Absolutely.
There's no way they can be like, "I know."
Absolutely. But
Okay.
there is stories.
So I was gonna
There
say,
is
I'm curious if that
stories.
person, if the family
And I
even
don't
knew
want
about that.
to assume the worst. I don't want to go there. Technically, you can ask them for a signed rejection, which I didn't ask for one. I could have pressed on it. I could have spoken to his broker. I could have taken other steps. I didn't want to. That's back to turning on the COVID news and constantly watching, because there's a lot of ugliness in
Right.
real estate too. I didn't want to do that. Then focused my energy on, okay, if this isn't meant to be, I'm going to find them another perfect home. But I didn't burn my bridges there, because there is a chance he's going to call me, because this has happened to me where they've called me and said, "Hey, do you want to be our backup? This escrow is falling apart. I want you to come in." And I don't burn my bridges that way. There's a lot of realtors I have a lot of opinions about, but I don't share them.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd be as restrained, but I'm sure it's a very smart way of approaching it. So what is that like when because I've had it like when we were like shopping for houses, for example, like my mom had her mindset, like we go into a house, like, this is the house, this is the one I want.
The emotional roller
Right.
coaster.
So as the person representing that family that has that, and then it doesn't go through, like that's like this, they're like, this is it, this is the one. They put an offer, they go through the whole thing, they
Yeah,
went through all
yeah.
the hoops, they got the pre-approvals, they've went this
Absolutely.
entire process.
They've already furnished the home
Yes,
mentally. They're like, okay, my sofa goes here.
exactly.
Yes,
They're
I get
fully
you.
invested emotionally
Yes,
in every
yes,
way, and
yes.
then it doesn't work. And then now it's yours, because you were alluding to this earlier, but now it's your responsibility to
pick them up.
Exactly. So the first time so two-part. The first time that happened to you, that first person, if you remember,
Of
that
course.
first person you had to do that for, how did you approach it? Because that it's your first time, so it's like, okay,
Sure.
how do I handle this?
Sure.
And now, how do you do it now? Since
Sure. I think at first time I was like this heartbroken baby with them. I went through the same emotional roller coaster with them. I was in this defeat mode with them because I kept putting offers and they just wouldn't get accepted. And I couldn't understand why. What am I missing? What's happening here? And obviously, I tell my team members now, writing an offer is a skill. It's a form of art. You can't write the same offer for every transaction. Every single offer of mine is different one way or another. It has to cater to the crowd in front of you. It has to cater to your buyers and so on and so forth. So I pride myself. You know, you can't get to top 1% if you have a lot of failures, if you think about it. So I pride myself in having the reputation. If my client wants it, it's theirs. So in the beginning, though, I was like, I was hurt. I took it personally. Like, I remember, it's so sad, but I remember every single agent who's ever rejected any one of my offers. And not that they're like blacklisted or anything, but I remember them. It's like a personal mission of mine. If you've rejected me once, I'm going to make sure I'm going to get to the point where we work together and you're going to see how great it is to work with me.
how
Makes
many
sense?
people is that you have to remember?
Just a few, you know, no big deal. I
Like
remember all of them.
you remember name, first
I
name,
know
last
their
name,
names.
everything.
I know the
NMLS
houses. Usually,
number.
when I save them on my phone, I put, you know, John Granada Hills. I know I did a transaction in Granada Hills with this guy. Or if I did 20 transactions in Granada Hills, I'll put the street name next to it.
Wow.
John Trosa. So now I know that's the house I sold with him. That's how I kind of save them. But I remember all my rejections. You know, I'm a perfectionist. Remember, I have to learn from my mistakes.
That's
So
fuel
if
to the fire.
Yes. Now I know I need to do better. I got to find a way.
Yeah, because it makes sense. I mean, I jokingly asked, but it does make sense that you do remember, because again, it goes back to where you are
Sure.
right now
Yes.
within the company, where if
Top 1%.
yeah,
Top 1.
well, I'll that's gonna be the title. I won't even put your
Yes!
name. I'll put top
Top 1. That's all you
1%
need to do.
Coldwell
When you say
Banker.
top 1, everyone knows it's me. Everyone knows it's
Well,
me.
there's only a few.
There's
not-
only
yeah.
top 1. You know,
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah, I think that way of approaching, though, where it's like, okay, I remember each person. There's a fine line where remembering each person that rejected you can be a motivation,
Mhm.
or it
Versus an
can be
obsession.
an absolute detriment to your work,
Yeah,
your mental being,
Sure.
frankly.
sure.
So it clearly seems you're on the right side of that.
And not in the beginning, though.
Hmm.
I remember, like, I would be in 3 escrows and I'd go crazy because I didn't know what it's like to be in escrows. I didn't know what it's like to handle so many people. I'm talking 3 escrows. Now we're talking 22 escrows, active listings, sellers you need to answer to, rentals, tenants, landlords that think you're a property manager, but you're not, and come to you for everything, even after the contract is over. This is for all of you out there. You know, so all of these parties, and yet I have my shit together. I'm
Yeah.
not going crazy. I'm surprised. I don't know how I'm not going crazy. Maybe I am crazy. I don't know. But it's so crazy to me. But in the beginning, oh my God, emotional mess. Like, my mom would make fun of it. She'd be like, you just did an Instagram live. You were the happiest girl on the live. And then you come home and you're angry like there's no tomorrow. Like, why do I get this version? You know, sometimes my family would get the short end of the stick and they'd get the true version and the
Yeah.
angry version. But I tried to filter it as much as possible because nobody wants to see the bad side. They all want to see the good. But I learned, I got there. And you get there with knowledge, you get there with experience when you learn how to deal with difficult situations. But practice is also important, right? Educating yourself is also important. Knowing the market is also important. When you know what you're doing, it's so much easier to do what you're doing. So
Right.
the level of transactions that I'm handling now is uncomparable to the level where I was in the beginning, stressing out like crazy, and yet the level of stress is much less. You know, it's funny, people always say, when I was a manager at Wells Fargo, people would say, like, higher up, as you go higher, it's less stress. And I would think, is it really true? Like, district managers have less stress, they feel like they have it easy. No, they're just better at what they do.
Yeah.
They just know what they're doing. It's not less stress. They earned the right to look like they're less stressed because they went through the hell that brought them to this point in their life. Makes sense?
Yeah,
So
definitely.
I earned the right to look like I have my shit together because I've gone through the messy and the crazy days.
But again, relatively speaking, you have to, because again, if you
Yeah.
unravel that much, it's gonna become evident.
Yes.
There's gonna be no videos, or if there's videos, you're gonna be like, what's going on with her? And then outside of that, you're not gonna be seeing sold. It's just gonna be
Nothing.
Yeah, if it's even listed.
Yes.
Like that
Yes.
that might even go away too.
Yes.
So you have 5 people on your team.
Yes.
How long have you had your own team? Like, so you've been there 3 years? At what
I've
point
been
were they
there
like,
3 years.
okay, now here's the keys, go build a team? When did that
So
happen?
3 months I was by myself.
Uh-huh.
6 months I was with my mentor.
Okay.
And then 6 months later, I said, I got to pull the plug. I've got this. Let me do this on my own. Pull the plug. And we were both in agreement with that. I think he felt guilty at that point. He's like, I don't even know the address of the last property you sold. And here I am as your mentor. I'm like, yeah, I've got this. I know what I'm doing. So 6 months into it, I was good. And then 3 months later, so pretty much a year into the business, someone approached and said, can I learn from you? Because even then I was pretty successful for a new agent and I was making waves and people could tell that something's up with this girl, something's going to happen. So someone said, can I learn from you? I'm like, sure. And I had tons of management experience from Wells Fargo and Apple. And I said, why not? Let's kind of start that here. So then one turned into 2 to 3. At one point I had 7 and then 2 of them kind of said, okay, we're good now. We're going to do things on our own. I'm like, no problem. I wish you the best. We still have great relationships together. And now I have 5 team members that are kind of learning from me and I'm guiding them through their transactions.
So what is your interview process then? When you're selecting people, how do you obviously don't, I guess,
It's so different from Wells Fargo and Apple style.
but
It's so different.
are you the only one? Are you the one that's
Yeah.
it's
Oh,
just
for
you,
sure.
right?
I'm the boss.
Yeah. So
Obviously.
you
Yes.
decide, okay, I
There's
want
no
this many
district
people.
manager. I run it
Right.
by finally,
Yeah.
I'm the boss. I'm
Yeah.
truly the boss.
So do you do one interview?
I do one interview.
You do one
It's
interview.
not an interview. I don't call it an interview. It's a conversation. I
Okay.
get to know the person.
How do you find them, first of all?
They find me.
So they
Not
find you.
once
Oh,
have
okay.
I reached out to anyone and said, one person I did early on. And then that's the one that kind of outgrew and said, okay, I got this. Because they were very smart, very talented. They outgrew. But they find me. They usually reach out to me and say, hey, will you be my mentor? Hey, and by the way, there's tons that reach out, but to be fair, I tell them I'm already spread so thin
Yeah.
and I can't possibly be your mentor if I can't even get to my team. Like I need to make sure I make myself available. So honestly, if I wanted to, I'd have like a team of 40. I just see no point. I wouldn't be effective at what I do. I wouldn't be there for my clients. I wouldn't be there for my family, most importantly. And there's only so much you can do. So I could have had a bigger, I don't think that number is key, but yes, I have a team of 5 and I like to say I'm always there when they need me, but they find me. They just like, well, in my case, I was found. I am proud to say. But no, they find me. They come to me and ask for help. And I talk to them. I get to know them. I get to know their story. Why is it that they want to be in real estate? To me, that why is so very important. When I hear money, I want to make more money, I'm done.
Right.
Nope, not for me. Because my business, I love it. I love the money aspect. I love what I make for what I do. But that's not my motivation. That's not what got me to where I am. So when I hear money and I can feel it in them, I'm like, no, this isn't for us.
Well, if money's the driver, you're going to be that person that's going from 620 to 625, calling
That is
people saying,
correct.
will you get
That is
5,000 more?
correct. Yes, and that's not what I want. That's not the reputation I want for myself or for my team members.
So you're at 5 now. That is there. So again, given all that you do, how do you utilize your time effectively so that does each person get the same amount of
No.
attention? No, right? Because
No,
some need
absolutely
more,
not.
some need less,
It's
some
not that
don't need
some need
any.
more, some ask for more.
Okay.
You get what you ask, right? Some are just needy because they take longer to learn, but some ask for more, and I'm pretty impressed by that. Some people are like, okay, I have you, I'll call you when I need you, but others are begging to learn, are begging to be that sponge, and I appreciate that. I respect that very much because that's the type of person that I was, and that's what helped me grow. So I give them exactly what they need. And I'll give you an example. Like, I'm going to invest as much energy in the person in front of me as they invest in themselves and in me and in growing the business. So if I'm telling a team member, these are the steps I want you to take, these are things that are going to make you successful because I've tried it and it worked, and I'm not seeing it happen, am I going to tell you something else next time? Probably not. And the best part about real estate, you're still your own boss. Even though you may be on someone's team, you are an independent contractor. You run your schedule, you decide your hours, you decide where you want to spend it. And if that's how they want to run their business, I'm okay with that. If they're satisfied with where they're at, I'm okay with that. I can't force them. I didn't hire them to make more. I hired them because they needed me and I felt like there was something I could offer them in return. So I did that. But it wasn't for the purpose of let's make us the unstoppable five, let's go to different highs. No, just a guidance that they really, really needed at the moment.
But do you look at them as like an extension of your team?
I do, but not the way I did at Wells Fargo and Apple. It was completely different. For my branch to be successful at Wells Fargo, all my team members had to be lined up and on the same page.
Okay.
Here I am, running my business and being very successful at running my business. Doesn't mean that all my team members have to be on the same page. That's why with real estate, it's a lot of self-motivation. If you're not motivated by yourself, if you need an external source of motivation, you may not be the right person for the job. I can push them as much as I want. I push them by leading by example. If that's not more, like they see my open book of like, here's what I do. Here's the secret sauce. And if they're not following, that's on them. You know what I mean? So I think with real estate is you make as much as you want to make. You do as many transactions as you want to do. You help as many people as you want to help. If you want to turn off your phone at 6 o'clock, so be it. Be that type of person. Do it. I can't. Not that it's right. I just can't. I don't know how it's done.
Well, the reason I asked if you view them as like an extension, because it was kind of surprising to me that you said if that's what they want, where like if they want to turn it off at 6, that's their doing. If they want to,
Sure.
if they have like a certain thing where they're comfortable with, that's on them. I would think you'd like light a fire, be like, and I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying I'm kind of surprised that was the response.
Like
where it was
every time we talk,
yeah.
they feel the fire is there. But then I gotta see something in return, right? I gotta make sure that when I gave them that fire, they're gonna do something with it. And if they don't, you let it be. And don't get me wrong, I'm very happy with the individuals on my team.
Right.
I think they're learning, but there's some that are taking their business much slower. So there's some that have full-time jobs. I'm okay with that too, and I respect it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's only so much they can give to the business. But I remember but this is why, top one, I gotta go back to the freaking top 1%. This is why not everyone is in that category, because it's all about how much are you really willing to sacrifice? How much are you willing to give to this business? And other people can't make those sacrifices for various reasons. Personal life, different schedule, other job that has to ask for their attention. So with real estate, you gotta understand it's a different mindset. You're an independent contractor. I'm not their boss. Even though I'm their mentor, I'm not their boss.
But are like in terms of the hierarchy or how it's approached?
So there's Coldwell Banker, and then there's my team sold by Tereza, and then there is the team members, the 5 team members.
So is your name anywhere associated with them?
When they write offers, for example, if that's what you're asking, if it's a buyer that I gave them, or if they need my help, then it's associated, it's together on that offer. If they completely source the buyer themselves, my name is not even on there. Nobody even knows, that they're associated with me. Makes sense?
Yeah, because that's part of
still part of Coldwell Banker. So I think you're getting too technical, but I think the concept here is we're all like our own business owners, and it's all about how much do we want to grow our business.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to
understand. And I'm there to give them guidance through that process.
Yeah, I think the other thing that I was wondering is, so because you said there's some that are working full time already, so it's like whatever they can give, but then you kind of stop yourself because you're like, well, I was there too.
I did. Yes.
So how do you effectively break that apart, where it's like, because I've had moments too where I'm like, something happens with someone and I'm like, okay, I get it, this is fun. Well, hold on. I was so how do you so it's like, how do you break it apart where it's like, well, if I did it, why can't you?
I'll be honest with you. I think years of management helped me realize that I can't hold everyone to my standards. Everyone's different, and I have to take them for who they are. Being at Wells Fargo, being at Apple, having the 5 different personalities now taught me, take them for who they are and make the best of that experience. If I held everyone to my standards, oh my God, the amount of people I would let go of and be like, nope, wrong. So I have to take it down a notch. And I've learned that. I've tamed myself to understand that this is who they are as a person, and they're great for the following reasons. And I truly do find why they're great. All the 5 individuals that are on my team, they're great for one reason or another, and I know that, and they know that. Like one team member, 4 escrows, 3 months into the job, firecracker, just firecracker and complete sponge, demands my attention nonstop, drives me crazy, but I know she's going to go far, So everyone on their own, they decide how far do they want to grow their business.
All right. So I have the business side of real estate question. So you've been 3 years. So what are we, 2020? So you started 17? Was it 2017? Right?
Yes,
Yeah.
2017.
So you've been in it while the market's been like this.
Going up.
So have you in your mind speculated, well, what happens when if this is, because California is kind of a different place. So
remember when I said I don't do it for the money? I took away the money aspect. I focused on the people. When you're in it for the people, there's tons of people to help. If they're buying now, tomorrow they're going to switch to selling. I'm still going to be there for the people because I'm there for the right reasons. Here's what I did, and I did something very smart. And here's another big accomplishment of mine. When I was at Apple, and it was a very difficult transition for me to make, to quit something big that was paying all the bills, amazing medical plan, 401k, stocks, you name it, the best, right? And good salary. So when you let go of that stability to the unknown world, even though it was peaking, right, going up, but I knew I'm smart enough. I've been in the banking industry, which is same as the market. You see the ups and downs and you know what it's like. I knew that it's not always going to be pretty and pink. So I had to do something. I had to eliminate my biggest mistake, which a lot of people say, why did you do that? Why did you do that? I had my mortgage and I said, this is my biggest debt. It's my only debt. I don't believe in debt. I hate debt. And yet I put people in mortgages for 30 years. And I make fun of them all the time too. Every time I say congratulations, I'm like, you're in debt for 30 years and you have me by your side for 30 years. That's like my line. I hated debt. And I said, okay, how do I eliminate the biggest fear factor of mine, which is this mortgage? God forbid, I don't know how, I lose all this money. God forbid, I don't have the salary. Market crashes. I'm making no money. How am I going to pay my mortgage? How am I going to have a roof over my daughter's head? That was so important for me. I'm like, okay, I'm going to save up enough so I can pay off my mortgage. And I did that. And I had a crazy post where I said, I paid off my mortgage in 2 years. And everyone was it blew up as well, and tons of people are asking how, and I'm not going to get into it because I have plans on sharing that story in depth another time. But I did that. I said, okay, I paid off. I got rid of the biggest factor. And when you take away the financial fear, you are unstoppable.
That's a good point.
I mean it.
Yeah.
And your clients can tell. Because when I go to help someone and I meet a brand new client, some realtors, I kid you not, true live examples, they're like, I just met a $20,000 client. He already calculated the commission on that purchase, on that $1 million transaction, so on. So that approach can only get you so far. Mine, I'm like, I just met Maria, who has a son, Alec, who has a husband, Peter, who wants this house by the mountains, who wants a good school district. That's what I focus on. Make sense?
Yeah.
So,
well, the big difference there is you said the name and they said there was a price
Absolutely.
tag on one person's face, and then
Absolutely.
over here there was a name
Absolutely.
associated.
Absolutely.
And I think you can. That was part of why I asked. Kind of, since you're in it, what is it like in terms of that? Because as someone that hears stories, and then for you to kind of verify, unfortunately, that there are people like that there.
Absolutely.
I'm kind of curious. So, in your 3 years there, is there something that you see about the industry that's outdated, or something that can be better, improved, or as it stands, does it seem like it's running as optimally and most efficiently as it can? The industry as a whole.
What's funny is I don't necessarily focus on finding solutions for industry as a whole.
Not even that necessarily for you thinking, well, yeah, it's just, is there something you've observed? Like, yeah.
There's tons of things that are outdated. Tons. I think that's kind of what differentiates the younger generation of realtors and the different approach we take in marketing versus the older generations. Like a lot of older generations believe in sending out flyers, and this may work for them. And they spend tons of money on this, and it takes a lot of money to get results. For example, if you target the zip code and you want people to remember your name and you want to send flyers to the zip code, I'm talking tens of thousands of dollars a month for them to keep getting that flyer. How often do you throw away the flyer?
Immediately.
Immediately. But the hope is that one day when you need to sell your home, you're going to remember that one face that's been arriving to your home for the past 12 months.
Yeah.
That's the hope. And the hope is you catch them at the right moment. So that takes a lot of money, and that's a lot of, I like to call it lazy marketing. And I also like to call Zillow as lazy marketing. A lot of realtors are going to hate me for this, but it is what it is. I
So I
express my
can't find you on
opinion.
Zillow.
I'm on Zillow, but it's
You are.
automatic. Like it's my sales. So what
Oh,
I mean
that's
by
how it
Zillow
works.
is
Okay.
people pay Zillow, which is a drastic
Oh, like the
mistake.
advertised. Yeah, I've seen that. I've
So that
noticed that.
on
Yeah.
my listing, for example, if Peter wants to pay top dollar, he will come up underneath as the first name, even though he's not the listing agent. So now my clients, potential buyers, are calling Peter saying, hey, can I see this house? But he has nothing to do with that
Right.
house. And yes, he can still show that house. That's considered a lead. Or someone that wants to sell their home and goes to search for their home price, and then you're paying Zillow prime dollar, which, if you're smart enough, you'd understand Zillow's trying to take over the industry. So why are you feeding them with money? And if you're paying them prime dollar, you get that lead. But how is it fair for you to get a client by simply paying more for that client? You know what I mean? So to me, and this has always been my belief, I don't believe in Zillow paying Zillow and Zillow's gonna block me. Like making them richer over leads that I didn't earn. I simply paid for it. Do you understand what I'm saying? That's like cheating the system. I call that lazy marketing. I call those lazy realtors. I call those outdated. I'm sorry. A lot of them do this. A lot of top realtors do this too. Great, kudos to them. Guess what? I work 10 times harder for every single client of mine, but it wasn't just some random lead that I paid for, and I earned it with my reputation, with my work ethic, with the results I delivered. People ask me, where do you get your clients from? 99% is referrals. I helped one person who then told 10 other people how great of a transaction that was. I set one record who told 10 other people what a record I set for that neighborhood. Make sense? Okay, you continue paying for your Zillow leads because luckily you've got tons of money left for marketing. I'm going to do it my way. I'm going to work harder, yes, but I'm going to do it my way.
Yeah, I think your view on that makes sense because of, again, what you described as your approach. It's like, I think if you were to give me, you're going to be equally successful. You can either do it how you've done it, or you can pay your way to it. I would say, if I know both are possible, then I would rather work my way to it, because it's also, when you reflect on yourself, you can say, oh,
I earned
it's
this.
entirely organic.
It's me.
Yeah.
It's all me.
Yeah. And again,
that's when you do it with a smile. You see the smile?
Yeah.
That's when you do it because you know what you've done to get there.
Yeah. And again, and you were saying this, you're like, if someone wants to do it away, then let them. But I do think it's a big differentiator where it's like, maybe
it's such a lie too. I felt like that. I don't know. I hope that day never comes where I'm like, oh my God, I have all this money and I'm just going to click and leads are just going to come to me, because I already get tons of leads from referrals. I can't possibly handle anymore, but it's such a lie. I don't know. I'm a big believer in, when you work, and some people are going to question me on this because it's possibly called a marketing strategy, but no, you paid for your name to be stuck on top. And when I see like the same names, I'm like, this is a high paying agent, and yet clients don't know better. So when they go and they're like constantly the same name, they don't realize it's not because he sold more, or it's not because he did more. It's because he has more money to stay on top. Do you see how unfair that is? Do you know what that does to realtors that have zero marketing budget?
I do. I see what you're saying. I don't know how much of unfair I agree with, just because.
Sorry.
No. That's no problem whatsoever. Because as you're explaining, I'm trying to think, because I've noticed those people there too. And when I first saw, I'm like, oh, they probably paid for this.
You thought that?
Yeah.
But others don't.
No, I mean, I think
they
part of
click
it.
on it.
Yeah.
It's the first name.
Yeah. No, I think part of it is also like, I think it depends what your background is too. Like,
Sure.
because I read
Where
about
do you
stuff
come
like this
from?
and all that, so that's why. But a lot of people couldn't care less. Like, I don't want to be like, I look at houses on my spare time for no reason.
Call me. Let's look at it together.
It's not even here. It's like other places. Like, I'll be watching like a football game, like a college game, and the college is in some random somewhere. I'm like, oh, I wonder how much houses are there.
Let's go find out.
Yeah, and I just check just for the hell of it. But it's in doing stuff like that.
You know who to call.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind. Maybe I can represent myself.
No, you're not a realtor. Remember, we quit that job.
Quit it before I could start it.
Yes.
But I think what I'd ask you for then, because you said people don't know, they just see the names, they assume, again, if they don't kind of have the understanding or background on it, they just assume that's there because they're the best. In general, how would you recommend, or what would you suggest to customers in general, whether they're yours or in general, people that are in the process of buying, what do they need to look out for to be able to distinguish what is
A good
a
realtor.
good and bad? What is the thing
You
for you that
know,
you think is?
I think interviewing your realtor is so very important. You're hiring that realtor as much as they're hiring you as a client as well. One is interview, get to know them, find out some of their success stories, have them share what they've done for other clients. That's one. Number two, I always tell my sellers, back when open houses were a thing, I would tell my sellers, go check out that realtor during their open house. One, you'll never see them there. Two, if you do, you'll know how they treat your prospective buyers. You'll know what kind of a human being they are. Like there's realtors, top-notch realtors in certain areas that they will show up to their open house, sit in a corner, have some like bottled water there and like a sign-in sheet and be in their phone, zero acknowledgement, zero eye contact. These are the people that are going to buy that home. You need to treat them with some, grace and respect
Mm.
and a smile and energy. And you got to showcase the house. The seller hired you to showcase the best features. You're sitting there in the corner or you're never even there. So I would always tell them, I said, go interview your realtor during their open house. See what they're like. How are they interacting with other people? Are they even there?
I think that's a very good point. Yeah,
Yeah.
because
The people
most of
that
the
pay on
ones.
Zillow, they're never there. Just so you know.
That's a good thing to know. Because so I'll share this, and I'm going to ask a question to follow up
Right.
on this point. Because what I've noticed in the open houses that I've gone to over time, from my experience, most of the people representing the buyer, so the one that's hosting the open house, is what you described. They're either somewhere in the corner doing whatever, they're on their
Absolutely.
phone or whatever. They're just not engaged. So it's like there's a lot of time where the way I find whatever I find out about the house is because I walk around on my own
You
or I
find
pick up
out
the
online.
flyer
Exactly.
and then I just leave.
And you know what it is? Their mentality is like, oh, I'm getting paid regardless. Or if they're hosting an open house with someone else and that person walks in with an agent, they're done with that person automatically. And I'm thinking, no. What if their agent has no clue about anything of the house and they don't have to? Imagine they're showing 6 homes. They don't have to know all the features of every house. It's your job because you signed up for the responsibility of hosting. Plus, what if you leave a better impression on that client than the agent that they're with? Have you thought about that?
Mm.
You know what I mean? I had a client call me once and he said, I saw you at an open house. I came with my realtor, but what I saw is what made me call you. And I want you to be representing me in my purchase. And I did. I ended up representing them. And for once, that flyer worked for me because I had flyers with my picture on me on it. But don't just give up. First of all, your job is to represent the seller. Your job is to do your best to showcase. It doesn't matter if there's another agent and you expect them to do the work for you. No, no, no. Like I truly put a lot of effort into my transactions and it shows in the results. I'll be honest with you. But a lot of them just give up. They're like, oh, she has a realtor. I'm not going to bother with that. I'm not saying go break that realtor client bond, but you also want to get to know the realtor because tomorrow you're going to want to submit an offer on that realtor's listing. Where is your networking skills? Where is your relationship with that realtor? Where is your relationship with the client? So I think some people choose the easy way out, the lazy
Mm.
way out, less work, not more effort, more time, more energy because it's hard. It's tough.
I don't. I was gonna say, well, it might be difficult because obviously I'm not in it, so I can't say it is or isn't. But the first thing I thought when you said that is, if your entire thing is, if your entire livelihood is based on that house selling or not,
You better
how
move your
can you?
feet.
How yeah? And I guess the answer might be one, you just don't care. Two, you still don't care, but it's because you've made enough.
Uh-huh.
Or three, you just I don't know, you're dumb.
You're
I don't
just
know,
not good
whatever it
at
is.
it.
Yeah, I don't know.
But here's the thing. Remember, I said I decided to become the good realtor because I had interviewed a lot of bad realtors. There's a lot of bad ones out there. So that's why there's the differentiation of here's a good one who's super successful, COVID market, upside market, down market,
Mhm.
here's a good realtor. And here's one that's barely going to survive on and off, one transaction here and there. There's tons of us out there, tons of us. How do you differentiate yourself from the competition?
So, given that there's this many people, like I said, from my open house experiences when I've gone, if I'm remembering correctly, most of them were the ones where it's like
In
they
the
may as well
corner.
not have even been there.
Just came to open the
Yeah.
door.
So from your vantage point of being the ones that isn't like that, that's actually
Present,
present.
fully present.
Would you say, because you said there's a lot that are that way, that would you say it's a majority are like that? Would you say most are competent enough to at least present it, or does it seem like
Based on my
yeah?
experience, if I'm showcasing a home and it's an open house, it's impossible for me to rely on that agent's information and what they're providing for the client.
Mm.
I always jump in and do the homework prior. I got to know what schools are in the area. I got to know what's nearby, what stores, freeway access, all that fun stuff. Is there something bad, red flags to watch out for? Based on my experience, it's tough to find someone that truly stands out and puts in that effort into the showing.
So do you think then that's the
The
minority?
majority.
The
The
minority are the
minorities,
ones like that, where
that's
they're,
correct.
yeah,
That is correct.
yeah.
100%.
Unfortunately, that's what, and I don't think that's even unique to the real estate thing. Unfortunately, it's something that like we'll talk about like amongst friends, where it's like whether we're, it's a mortgage lender, for example, not necessarily the one selling the house, but the one behind the scenes, that person, or whatever, anything, an accountant, whatever, all
Mhm.
these, any branch of whatever, any walk of, any type of job. It seems like most people should not be doing what they're doing.
No.
They're
And
just, and
isn't
I
that
think, and it
sad?
might be because of what you said. It's they're doing it because there's money, and not even
Yes.
necessarily that there's a lot of money, but just because it's a paycheck. Like I need
Yes.
it.
But isn't that
It
sad?
is sad because it's evident too.
Because you rely on these people. They're so crucial to your success, and yet they're failing you. It's so sad.
Yeah, because I'll deal with it. Like today, it was happening where like I had to call this company for something that's like going on with our house since for like 9 months. It's been ongoing. It's still not resolved. Part of it isn't their fault. Part of it is because of a different company. But the issue I'm having is communication, where I'll text, phone call, or email. Hey, is there an update on this? Nothing. I wait another week, send another one, nothing. Wait 3 days, send another one, nothing. And I have to call again. Oh yeah, we'll let her know to call you. I'm like, was she gonna call me today? Yeah, she'll call you today. She doesn't call me today.
Of course.
Goes and it goes and it goes, and it's this endless cycle where it's like, why can't most just if you're in the job, please do it.
Do it well.
Yeah, at least try. Make it seem like you're doing it well, and it's something that I think just kind of being more conscious of it. Like recently, it's like, yeah, I don't think a lot of people should be doing what they're doing now. If it's because they just can't find their passion, or if it's because like I gotta make a paycheck, I don't know what
Scenario is.
yeah, I don't know what the scenario is and what's the underlying issue of all of it is, but I think it's evident, and that's why I kind of share it, is because it's evident that it's also in the real estate industry too.
Absolutely.
Because you see people like that. It's like, really, dude, like, what if I was gonna buy the house?
Like you just took
Yeah,
that experience away from me.
because there's sometimes where if it was up to me, like if I was the one pulling the trigger on buying the house, it was just me, right? I'm buying it for myself alone. If I walk in, that happens, I'm gonna walk right out. But like there's like I'll be like with my family or whatever, and they're gonna be a little more patient about it. Like I'm already like looking at this guy with the stink eye, like, dude, all these people are here. You don't
Do
want to come,
something.
yeah. Like, what if you just approach it, like, I'm sure, like if you were that person and you approached it like that, we would have been more inclined to probably pull the trigger.
Mhm.
If it's already like within we have the pre-approval, all
Oh
that, you're
yeah.
in that whole
Oh
thing.
yeah. The experience makes it a much better transaction. And having a knowledgeable realtor present really is a factor in making that decision. Do you pull the trigger or not? If that realtor comes and gives you a piece of information that's so important that no one else would know, it's huge. So I think I pride myself in really educating myself, knowing my market, knowing what I'm doing, being aware, of if I have a listing, I need to know A to Z every corner about it, and passing on that knowledge to my clients. Like other realtors appreciate me for it too. Like today, this guy texted me, he's like, "Can I get the code to show this house?" I'm like, "Of course." And then it was followed up by this paragraph of like a cheat sheet I gave him because I'm not gonna be there with COVID-19 rules. I'm like, "Here you go on a
Mhm.
silver platter. Present this to your client." And he's like, "Thanks, you're the best." I'm like, "I know, I
Mhm.
know."
Have you had it happen where a client will approach you with the house that they want to see, but they might like they've shared, I want this to fulfill the house itself and the areas. They show it to you, and there's something that they don't know that doesn't fulfill one of those
Oh
things,
yeah, I
but
shut it
they're
down.
so into the house though,
No,
and you just
absolutely
tell them
not.
no, it doesn't
And
feel.
and the good thing is, I have the reputation to back it up. I have the experience to back it up. Now I have the results to back it up. So I think I've earned that trust with them. 99.9% of my clients are like, "I trust you." So if they send me a home, I don't care how invested, I'm not gonna let you purchase that home because of the following reasons. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And very few will go against what I say, and that's okay too. But I will express my opinion, and that again proves it's not about making that money quick and easy. It's about how is this the right thing for you?
Yeah, because again, potentially shutting one down prolongs the process.
Exactly.
So
I do it so often,
yeah,
though. I do it so often,
well,
but they thank me for it. Why do
exactly.
you think the referrals come? Because then they say Teresa was in it for me.
Yeah, because you
Makes
look out for
sense?
their interests. Because if
Absolutely.
they describe it, and again, because part of it is they might not even know, they because there's a lot of research that goes as a person buying a house, right, to the area and this that. So there's good chance you're gonna miss
Sure.
something that you want or don't want to be near there, or whatever it is. You miss it just because sometimes it's hard to even know
Sure.
unless you're someone that's in the
Expert.
space. Exactly,
Yes.
you'll know. And like you're describing, where you know that like every square foot of that general zip code or whatever. So yeah, I'm because I was wondering about. I'm like, how often would that be the case where they come share a house with you? Like, nope, sorry,
I do it
doesn't.
often.
Interesting. So it's been pretty positive, everything so far, right? That's like your theme to everything, positivity, which is a big driver of your success in addition to all the other things we've discussed. But what would you say a moment or moments, a period of time, whatever that was difficult for you, whether it have been during the bank, at Apple, or even during this throughout your careers, a period of time, whatever it was, how did you overcome it?
A common theme with mine has been lack of experience, right? Everyone says, how do you do it at such a young age? How do you do it with such little experience? Like you said, was 3 years really accurate? A lot of clients will be like, oh my God, you've only been doing it for 3 years. And they automatically assume because it's so short, you may not know enough or you may
Mm,
not be good enough. As when I was a manager, I was 20 years old as a manager at Wells Fargo Bank. You
that's
can
crazy.
imagine what a huge
Yeah.
responsibility. The most common theme I would come out, they'd be like, you're the manager, you're the one I'm going to talk to as an angry client or a high value client or so forth. But then moments later after the conversation, they'd be like, okay, now I know why you're the
Mm,
manager. So a lot of it has been working extra hard to kind of overcome that barrier of I'm too young, I'm female, in certain industries, or again, I look young, I may not be as young, I don't have as many years of experience as someone else. But all of that is overcome by putting in an extra effort, working harder, and outsmarting the competition to say, okay, I may be young, I may only have 3 years, but guess what? I'm top 1%. But guess what? I did this. Guess what? I set this record. Guess what? I sold a home that three other realtors couldn't sell. Make sense?
mhm.
So that's how I overcome. But it means more effort, more time, more energy, more working on yourself and bettering your skill
Yeah,
set.
that's crazy. 20 years old being like the branch
Branch
manager.
manager.
When I because
Level one, and then worked my way up. So there are different levels.
I started as a teller at 18 and I left at 20 because I went out of state for school, but I left as a teller. I was still a teller. I did nothing.
Manager,
So
Teresa.
18, so because you have to be 18 to start at the bank, right?
18 to
So
start,
18 started
teller,
as a
six
teller.
months later, CSSR, one step below, personal banker.
Is that the one where you do both?
Yeah,
Okay.
share box. I
Uh-huh.
love how you remember. And then you become a banker six
Uh-huh.
months later. And then 6 months later, I was an assistant manager. So, like, all my positions were 6 months, 6 months. And then I became a branch
But
manager.
was that like at that time, was that like the structure where it's like
No,
no, it's just it
no,
just
it wasn't
coincidentally
the
ended up
norm.
666. It just ended up
No,
like that.
no, it was my speed. Remember, you said was 1 year okay? No, it was not okay. My speed for perfection, my speed for more, my speed for more responsibilities, my speed for get me the next level, teach me more. I'm ready for more. It was me. There was no way. There wasn't like a
Yeah.
6 month structure in place. No
Which Wells
way.
Fargo did you work at?
Oh, so many.
Oh, so the
Uh,
first one when you first got into which
First,
one?
I got hired at Burbank. Main store, it's level five. So, level five means most volume
Uh
of
huh.
clients and most
Uh huh.
dollar amount. Burbank, San Fernando, and Burbank Boulevard,
Oh, okay.
across from Chase.
Hmm.
And I was a teller there. 4 years later, 5 years later, I came back to the store as a branch manager, which was a huge aha moment for me.
So when you went to the CSSR one and then the banker,
I
you
traveled
different.
different
Oh,
stores
okay.
until I came back to that store as a branch manager.
Interesting. For people like people that are still young in their careers, and this would include myself as well, that are kind of on that path, because that's something. So you had to go around. Now, granted, you didn't go out of state for anything, right? You're
No.
still within the right.
Yes.
Is there at what point do you think if something someone really wants to do, but it requires them to move away from family, let's say they have to, or even if it's within the state, they have to move up north or
Hmm.
down to like San Diego area, let's say. What would you say to people like that where they're contemplating but they're on the fence? Like let's say it's like, but I have to leave this, that. Would you, if it's something they want to do, are you going to tell them go anyway? You got to do it, or
No, you
uh,
got to look at circumstances. Like I was married at the time. There was no going away. There was, and then I had my daughter, and
Mhm.
like people are like, "Will you ever move out of Glendale?" I'm like, "No, her school is in Glendale. I'm staying in Glendale." There's certain things in life that tie you up to certain places and kind of
Mhm.
tie your hands. Like with Apple, there was so much growth opportunity in other states, and it would be a dream come true. But then I had my daughter here, and I'm like, "There's no way. I'm just gonna be where she's at in my comfort
Mm.
bubble," so you say. So no, you got to look at circumstances. Absolutely not. But if you're young, if you don't have a family, I mean, kids, husband,
Mhm.
wife, whatever, go for it. That is your time to shine. That is your time to make
Right.
mistakes. You can get away with mistakes. But when you're committed, when you're certain things that are tying you down, I hate the word down, but it's true. You can't be that flexible anymore. You
Right.
can't be that free bird anymore, even though some people are. I don't know how they do it. Kudos to them. So, no, it depends on the circumstance. If you're young and there's nothing stopping you, there's no fear factors, go for it. Go make mistakes. Become a better person. I promise you will. Don't be scared. And if you're not, hang tight.
So do you think if there was something like that, like let's say the Apple scenario was when you're like 20, let's say you're a manager at
Mhm.
Apple at 20. If that opportunity presented itself, so like there's something in wherever
100%.
you would have jumped at it.
100%. 100%. It's like there was a position in China. I'm like, oh my God, I could possibly do this. Like, it's a different world.
Mm.
Imagine the type of person that would come back from there with a new language and a new
Yeah.
skill set. So 100% I go for it. It's just, being Armenian and
Yeah.
traditional and certain things, kind of tie your hands, and
Mm.
there's only so much you can do.
Yeah, because I went out of state for like my school was my like a year and a half out of state for school, and I finished, but I really liked where I was. Like I didn't want to come back just because I really enjoyed the state. And then I had applied to jobs there because there was just nothing. I had applied here too, but nowhere responded here. So with my school's network, it was more focused on that state. And then I got a job there during my senior year, and I took it. And then when I graduated, I graduated, came back home for like 2 months because they allowed like a 2 month period, and then I went back and I started doing that. And I worked there for like 7 months out of state. Because the reason I asked is because I was kind of curious how much we would align on that because that experience alone, I would say, was like easily the most valuable that
Do
I've
you
had
see?
in this amount of time. Because one, you spend that much time alone with yourself because right, no one
You
else
get to
there.
know
You
yourself.
get to know yourself.
And
You
you're like,
learn
wow, I need some work, right?
exactly. You realize more your strengths, what your weaknesses are, and if you're responsible and accountable, you'll embrace it and then you'll improve it. And then you learn more about how do I live on my own? How does this the utility bills? You
I
live
wash
on
the
this
dishes.
stuff. Yeah, that was the worst part.
I hate the dishes.
That was the worst part. Like, I'd get asked, like, was it tough, like being away? This, I'm like, the worst. Yeah, that sucked, obviously. But I'm like, I would make food. Making the food was fun.
uh, the
And
cleaning
then
up
I look
after.
at, yeah, it takes so much longer. The
Yes.
process of making the food,
Now
eating
you
it.
see what our moms go
Yeah,
through.
I know. And then like my mom loves doing it. I'll ask her, I'm like,
Why?
yeah, how do you enjoy it this much? Like
Why do
especially
you do
coming after
this?
work tired. She's like, no, I like it.
Yeah, yeah.
I know
It's in their blood.
yeah, it's crazy, but I do think it's a very valuable experience. If again, I'm in line. I'm aligned with what you said, where it's like if you don't have those responsibilities, if you have an opportunity to and life, because there's someone that I listened to that said life's an adventure, so treat it like one. So if there's
Mhm.
an opportunity to go somewhere to do something and learn, so job, whatever it is, and you're capable of doing it, you're not in that situation, take it
Absolutely.
because again, there's an infinite amount that you'll learn that you had no idea.
Sure.
Because I this was in Ohio. Every person that I said that I went there, they're like, "Isn't it a farm?" Every single person over here,
Because
especially
that's
in
all they know.
exactly, because we're
They
in
don't know
Glendale, you have
otherwise.
all these nice buildings, the mall, the Americana, all this. So anything outside of here, it's like it's California, farm, New York, right?
That's all they know. I love it. It's
That's
so
exactly.
accurate.
And honestly, I was thinking the same too.
Until you learned
Yeah, and then when
otherwise.
I got there, well, where my school was kind of like that, to be fair. But then when I moved up, like the capital in Columbus, completely different. Then I lived around like suburb of Cleveland, completely different. And then just the opportunity to see these places, and then traveling to neighboring states just for the hell of it. 'Cause I'm like, well, I'm here, so I'll go see what I can see around. You learn, it's
There's so much
unbelievable.
more.
What I realized most is I thought, of course, everyone at that age, or a lot of people at that age think they know so much, right? And then you go somewhere else, it's like, oh my goodness, the amount that the world has
To
that you
offer.
don't know. And this was just in one state.
Yeah,
One
yeah.
state made me think that. So
Imagine.
imagine you go to the other ones, and you go to
Absolutely.
another country.
I agree with you.
It's yeah, it's overwhelming thinking about it, but it's also exciting. I
Sure.
think if people have the opportunity, I would recommend it too. I think that's all I have for you.
I appreciate you.
Yeah, I thank you. This was very fun, informative.
Thank you.
I've
I
been
had fun too.
Yeah, we've been looking forward to this conversation for a long time, like amongst us, because we're all aware of what you do, your content, and all
Uh-huh.
that. So once we got this up and running, and I was kind of thinking about what kind of guests would I want, and I remembered, I'm like, wait a second.
There's this girl that keeps
Yeah,
popping up, and
yeah,
she's super
exactly.
annoying. But let me find
No,
out
no,
if she
no,
really is.
because I saw that, I'm like, there's a reason this many people watch. There's
Yeah,
something there,
there's gotta be.
yeah, because when I reached out to you, and again, you're one of those people, you almost responded immediately. You're
Yeah.
like, this sounds cool, but what
You know
exactly
why?
would we do?
Because I knew you typed it.
Yeah,
I can tell.
nice.
You're
It's a
welcome.
good thing I didn't use the template.
I knew you typed it. Templates, forget it.
Yeah.
Goes right through.
Yeah, because part of why I do this is I'm want to learn too. Because part of it is also, okay, what might interest whoever watches it, what might interest them. But the main driver is the person that's in front of me. Am I going to learn something from
Yeah.
them?
Will you
So-
get something?
yeah.
out of
So
it?
if you're a high school student, if you're I don't care what you do. I
Because
don't
if
care.
you are, someone else is gonna get it too.
Yeah, exactly. That's the hope,
Yes.
because when I did his podcast, he asked me like, why are you doing this? What's the point? And part of it, and I concede, I'm like, the first and foremost, the person that benefits from this most is me.
Uh-huh.
The amount that you shared, what I've written, and what I'm gonna be able to rewatch since we're gonna upload it, astronomical amount. Yeah,
I've
because
accomplished something.
yeah, definitely. And then
Thank you.
it's the same. That's the hope of it too, because
Yes.
I was telling you before we started, my hope is I ask you a question and you talk for 30 minutes, and I can
Yes.
just sit here, write, or just listen. Because
Absolutely.
I don't want to talk. There's already been periods of time while I've been talking. I'm like, this is too much. I gotta cut it. Stop talking at some point because I want to hear again what's the other
Absolutely.
person have to offer. So the fact that you were able to again add to the other people that have come on so far and treat it like that and add that much more value to me, I hope and like you said, you'll share it too. And the people, I think maybe you've shared more here that people don't see because the people on there will see you. Obviously, they know your personality already.
Sure.
But the more of the stories, the thing behind the person, that's what
course.
interests me too.
Of
I always
course.
wonder, no matter what you do, again, I always wonder why.
Who is it?
Yeah, who is it and why do they do it? Because then maybe you ask that question and you'll find out, oh, they don't like what they do.
Yeah.
Because the way when I approach like asking people stuff, I figure I'm like, if you're busy, you might not respond. Makes sense. If you don't like what you do, you're not going to respond. If you're busy and you really, really, really love what you do, I might have a chance of hearing back from you. And
Yeah.
also, if you're not busy but you love what you do, you'll get back to me. That's why I
Yes.
don't care. You can be a
It's one of
janitor.
those
Yeah, be a
scenarios.
janitor. I don't care. If I ask you why are you doing this, and the whole story, it's the story, it's the journey. I want to
Yes.
hear. I want to learn why.
Yes.
And once I learn it, if I'm gonna be someone that takes something away, then so will
Someone else.
he, so will the guy over there,
Absolutely.
everyone. So thanks for sharing it. I know
Thank you
there's
for
gonna
having
be
me
whoever
here.
sees it, they're gonna be able to take a lot away
I'm
from
so
it.
glad to hear.
Yeah. So thank you. I think
Top 1%.
top 1%,
Nailed
the
it.
top 1%, Coldwell Banker, Realtor, Tereza.
Worldwide.
Worldwide,
You
not
gotta get the
USA.
title right.
Worldwide.
Worldwide.
I'll make sure I
Thank
get it
you
right
so
in the
much.
title on
I
the
will
page.
spell it
Thank
for
you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Of course.
Where can people find you?
Oh yeah. Wait.
Oh my god.
I finally
Oh my
thank
god.
you. I always
Oh
forget
my
to
god.
ask this.
Oh my god. If you don't
Socials, all
already
that,
have
yeah.
me, if you don't already have me, Tereza Tora on Instagram, Tereza
Okay.
Tora, and then Facebook and LinkedIn, Tereza Toramanyan. It's kind of a long name, so hopefully you'll put it down there.
We're gonna put the links,
You got
everything.
it.
Perfect. Thank you
Absolutely.
for reminding me. I always forget.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Nailed it.